Tonight, DC puts some no-name on a book hoping that it won't sell. Like, who the hell is this Tom King guy? Superboy has heard my confusion over its book and decided to just paste an entire Wikipedia article in the middle of its script. And Birds of Prey decides to revisit the ever-popular Basilisk, Regulus, and... I'm sorry, I just hate it so much. I can't. All that and more tonight on the Not-So-New 52. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 149 of the Not So New 52. I am your host and I'm going to keep this real brief because just a little behind the scenes thing. I got a little timer on my phone here I keep off to the side, and that tells me how long I've been talking about each of the comics throughout the episode. As there are more comics, I have less time to talk about each of them. There are 14 comics this week, which is not huge, but I did manage to go about 2 to 3 minutes over on every single one of them, which is a problem. So, again, gonna keep this brief. So let's just jump right on into the comics coming out this week. In no particular order, we have Detective Comics, Batgirl, Birds of Prey, Superboy, Superman/Wonder Woman, Green Lantern Corps, Justice League United, World's Finest, Infinity Man and the Forever People, Constantine, our 2 weeklies, Batman Eternal and Future's End, and then we also have 2 brand new number ones, which is Grayson and New Suicide Squad, which I'm just remembering now that at the end of last week's episode, I said I forgot to put New Suicide Squad on the side panel on screen here, and I never fixed that. So, oops. Anyway, in terms of events, the only major things going on are Superman Wonder Woman is part of the Superman Doom story, and Green Lantern Corps is the final chapter of the Uprising crossover, so be sure to check out that. I think it actually managed to stick the landing quite well. But beyond that, let's keep it brief. Let's just jump right on into, I'm thinking I'm going to start with the new number one, so lead us off with Grayson. Grayson number 1, written by Tim Seeley and Tom King, art by Mikel Janin. So, Forever Evil happened, Dick Grayson died, and then Batman, because he wasn't actually dead, was like, well, let's take advantage of this opportunity, fake your death, and you're going to go be a double agent in Spiral. So, we pick up with that. We see somewhere in the middle of the Trans-Siberian Railway, Dick Grayson, now going by the name of Agent 37, is jumping onto a train, and he's talking to somebody named Matron, and Matron's like, congratulations, you jumped on a train. Like, literally any of my first year students could do that. Now, how about you do something useful? And this guy jumps out of on top of the train, starts attacking Dick. Dick grabs his gun, throws it against, like, a beam on the side of the train, and it bounces back and knocks the guy out. And Dick's like, man, no one's ever here to see the really cool stuff. Meanwhile, on a hilltop super far away is Midnighter, who's like, damn, that was really cool. So he's talking to somebody named the Gardener saying, hey, there's a thing going on who's going to interrupt our acquirement of the asset. Just, I'm letting you know before I move in. So we see Agent 37 getting into the train. Someone asks for his ticket, and he's like, oh, yes, here you go. Here's his thing. I have a Russian accent. So we then follow this other man whose name is Dubov Ninel. And he is a very large man, and this young, attractive blonde woman is basically hitting on him and saying like, oh, hey, maybe we should go to the bar. I can get you a drink. And he's just like, is it hot in here? I'm so hot. So at this point, we see another woman pass by them, and turns out this is Matron. She is another one of the spies helping out here. And they tried to drug this guy's drink, but it's not taking. So they're going to have to figure out a new way to get in to do this. And they mention a technology called Hypnos, which we'll see later on, but it's essentially like a hypnotism thing that they are able to use. So once the blonde and I've already forgot his name, Dublov or whatever, get to the bar, Grayson's sitting there, still in disguise, and he's pretending to be like a stupid American tourist. He's just like, "Hey, are you one of those mail order brides? I got a couple $100 on my pocket." And then he like dumps the wine on the girl, and that's enough to get her to storm off to take care of that. Turns out, however, she is also a secret agent trying to get a handle on this Dubnov guy, and as she's trying to call in to her associate, who was the dude that Grayson knocked out on top of the train, she starts getting all woozy. She falls down. Turns out that the wine had a paralytic inside of her, and then Matron uses the hypnos, which seems to just make people comply. And the woman's just like, "Are you CIA? Checkmate? What's going on here?" And she's like, "No, shut up." So we see that Grayson managed to knock the guy out, and he did it by like nerve pinching him, but now he's carrying him outside the train to the extraction point, and he says, "All right, Matron, wish me luck." And he's like, "There's no such thing." He's like, "All right, whatever." So they do a big old flip or whatever, get off the train, and at that point Dubov wakes up, and they're immediately fired upon by a bunch of different like agents from various different places. So Grayson's like, "Crap, all right, I'm gonna have to do this." He throws on the hypnos, which he didn't want to do because he's not super trained in it yet, but he flips it on and basically convinces Dubov like, "Hey, I'm your friend, let's get out of here and go have some fun." And we see in the like mindset of Dubov, it's just this happy fun time as they're frolicking through with beers and such. Meanwhile, they're just trying to outrun the gunfire. They make their way to a nuclear reactor that's been decommissioned, and at that point Dubov falls down, and Grayson is attacked by Midnighter. So they're trying to figure, well, Grayson's trying to figure out what happened to Dubov. Midnighter's like, "I didn't do anything to him, I just put him back to sleep." But like, I can read electrical signals in your brain. Midnighter's whole thing, for anyone who doesn't know, is that he is able to essentially see a fight way down the road. He's able to do like predictive stuff, and he's really good at it. So there's not a lot of ways to sneak up on him, but Grayson manages to sweep his legs, and he's like, "Oh, okay, you're able to like throw in your own little improvisational stuff. You fight like jazz." So they get into a little bit of an argument about picking up Dubov, and it turns out that Dubov is just a carrier for something. There's something inside of his body that all of these different agencies want. And Midnighter's like, "All right, so who the hell, like, what? Who are you for? What are you going to use Dubov for?" And he's just like, "Oh, I just want to help him. That's all I'm doing." And Midnighter's like, "All right, but that's not true at all. Like, nobody is just doing this." And as they fight a little bit more, Grayson activates the hypnos again, and Midnighter recognizes it. He's like, "Hypnos, that means your spiral, which means that because of your hypnos, I'm not even going to be able to remember what you look like once we're done fighting. So that means I'm going to have to like actually kill you here." And at that point, Midnighter just gets blasted halfway across the country by a giant energy burst. And Grayson looks up and sees that it's Dubov. And Dubov, whatever he was carrying in him, is some sort of superpowered energy thing. And Dubov's like, "We are friends. I am helping, yes?" And Grayson's like, "Yeah, no, totally." But Midnighter mentioned something about how Spiral's, not on the up and up. They're going to be trying to control him. And Dubov's like, "Is that true? You tried to control me?" And Grayson's like, "No, I'm your friend. I'm your friend." But then he looks at Dubov and he's like, "Okay, you know what? Truthfully, totally honestly, I am using you. Everyone on the train, all of us were trying to use you. You're not my friend. You're just a loser, and I'm trying to manipulate you." And Dubov fires off another energy blast, a few more of them. Grayson keeps dodging. We see the nuclear reactor just falling apart around him. Matron's ready for the pickup, but it's not ready yet. And turns out that the whole reason Grayson was doing this was because if the energy was left to be like pent up inside of Dubov, it would have killed him. So he was trying to bait him, goad him into using up the energy. So as the whole reactor's coming down, Grayson picks up the guy and runs out and manages to save him in time. So we cut back to Spiral HQ, where the head guy, whose name is Minos, he's got like a full-on Spiral face, wearing glasses. Can't see what he looks like, but he's like, "Well, I mean, you guys did not do it stealthily. You took down an entire reactor, but it worked. Whatever. So be it." So I'm proud to have you both here, Agent 37 and Matron. Oh, hell, screw the crowed names. Dick Grayson and Helena Bertinelli. And they say, "Oh, thank you, Mr. Minos." So Grayson wants to know what happened to Dubov. He's just like, he's fine. We got the thing out of him. He's going to wake up. He's not going to remember any of this stuff. It's totally cool. Anyway, get some rest. We got a lot more spy stuff tomorrow. So we see that night we're at St. Hadrian's Finishing School for Girls, which is apparently the cover for Spiral. Grayson's doing some workout, and then he goes over to his alarm clock, which he disassembles, does some light soldering, and turns into a communicator where he's calling Batman and saying, like, I'm getting better with the hypnos, but I have no idea who Minos is yet, so still working on that. But then there's a knock at the door. It's Helena. She comes in, and she's like, hey, you did really good with that hypnos earlier. That takes years to master. It's like, you're doing a great job. And he's just like, oh, yeah, I'm good at reading people. It's fine. It's just what I do. And they lean in, and it looks like they're about to kiss. And Grayson's like, wait a minute. That's against the rules of Spiral. And she's just like, yeah, I know. I was never going to, like, actually kiss you. I was just showing you that I don't need the damn hypnos to control people. So, final thing we get is a woman named Frau Netz, who apparently is the daughter of Otto Netz from Batman Incorporated. She's doing some weird operation thing and talking to Minos, and Minos is basically saying, like, yeah, all right, once long ago Spiral was used to kill all of this, like, superhumans. Now we're all about just figuring out their secret identities, and we see a big wall of superheroes, and the top two are identified. Batman is Bruce Wayne, Cyborg is Victor Stone, but everyone else is still in red, and so they're gonna, with all this power, they need to be held accountable. We need to know their secret identities, blah, blah, blah. All right. So issue 1, I think it does a good job of setting up, here's what Spiral does. Here's the main characters. Here's like a general gist of like an average mission. And then I'm sure we'll get into the more nitty gritty of like, okay, well, what's going to further this? How is Midnighter fitting into all this? And just building up the mythos to it. I'm interested. I'm into it. I enjoyed it. I'm going to give this one I'll give it a solid 8. I think in terms of first issues, it's as solid as you're going to get. I'm super interested, and I want to see where we go. New Suicide Squad number 1, written by Sean Ryan, art by Jeremy Roberts. So, the last volume issue, whatever you want to call it, of Suicide Squad, Forever Evil happened, and everyone came down on Amanda Waller saying, screw you, we know about the Suicide Squad, you're no longer in charge, but we're going to keep doing it. So this is basically just picking up on the new status quo. We pick up sort of in media res here, and we see Deathstroke, Black Manta, Harley Quinn, Joker's daughter, and Deadshot are all in the middle of explosions and firefights. Meanwhile, some narrations going on saying like, man, Suicide Squad's such a good idea. It's like villains are just gonna villain, and like it's impossible to screw up such an awesome idea. So we then cut to DC 3 months before this, and we see the new guy in charge, who the Secretary of Defense is talking to. His name is Victor Sage, and he comes in with like an iPad, and he's like, hey, Suicide Squad, previous incarnation, super cool, want to make some changes. And the defense is like, what's up? Tell me what you need. And he's just like, all right, here's the thing. Black Manta, love him, super cool, definitely on the team. He also has black in his name, which is just baller. Also, Captain Boomerang, get out of here. I'm done with him. He's stupid. Why is he even around? We also got Harley Quinn and Deadshot. I'm not quite feeling them, but like, I guess we can do better is what I'm saying. Let's just try to refill in their roles and just see how that works out. And then he says, we call this thing Task Force X. We should start calling it Task Force XL. So then we go to Waller, who's talking to her secretary, and she's just like, this is all going to blow up so hard. Like, he's just throwing random things here together. He's not even, their mission starts in 2 hours, and we haven't done any sort of testing. This is all going to go to hell. And they're talking about, like, the prison and stuff like that and everything going on with Belle Reve. And it's just like, yeah, Belle Reve is great. It's rebuilt. It's now secretive. Nobody even knows it's here. But, yeah. So then we cut over to Moscow. And Harley tries attacking Joker's daughter because she's wearing Joker's face, and Harley has a problem with that. And then Deathstroke comes in saying, like, Harley, shut up or I'm going to blow your brains out. And then Black Manta jumps in the middle saying, guys, we're here on a business deal. Deadshot, is Suicide Squad usually this crazy? And he's just like, it's different kind of crazy, not usually this kind of crazy. So Deathstroke says what the mission is, and he's like, look, Russians have been overstepping their boundaries. We're going to send them a message. We're going to their Ministry of Foreign Affairs, going up to floor 26, and then just blowing up some stuff. And Black Manta's like, okay, cool. What are you going to be doing? And Deathstroke's like, oh, I'm going to be assassinating the head of their CEO of their largest oil company. To which Deadshot's like, excuse me, hi, Deadshot here. Assassinations are kind of my thing. Why are you even here? And he's just like, I could ask you the same question, Deadshot. I'm the best at what I do. What are you doing here? So we go back over to Victor Sage, and he just walks into the office of Waller, just being like, hey, we're about to start the mission. You wanna come with? I got a coffee. And she's just like, I've been trying to call you for hours, man. This mission is like about to start in like 2 minutes. I was hoping to talk with you beforehand. And he's like, yeah, sorry, I was busy. Anyway, do you want to go? So they start walking their way out. And Waller's basically just chewing him out, and he's just responding with like, you gotta calm, everything's gonna be fine, calm down, stop being so uptight about this, it's all gonna go great. What could possibly go wrong? He says those words. So Harley baseball bats a grenade into the security staff of this building, and they make their way in, and Waller's basically like, hey, so I've been meaning to ask you, why do we have these people on our team? And Victor's just like, your team looked pretty weak. I wanted to spice it up a little bit. And she's like, I'm sorry, did you do any studying of our reports at all? We don't need any spicing up right now. Our last reports are like, please, just tell me you know anything about this. And he's like, I know enough. So she asks, why in the world, if you're going to have Deathstroke and Joker's daughter, do you even keep Deadshot and Harley around? Like, what's the point? And he's just like, it's a little friendly competition. We got the crazy ones and we got the ones that are good with guns. They want to outdo each other. And she's like, that's not the point of this at all. The whole thing is that we have control over some of them because they've got bombs in their necks. Like, that's the whole control. Deathstroke and Joker's daughter do not have that. We don't have control over them. And he's like, look, we don't need control over them. I just gave Deathstroke a boatload of money, and I told Joker's daughter that we would give her Joker. That's enough motivation that they're going to do it. And Black Manta, he does have a bomb in his neck because he's in Belle Reve. That's a whole different thing. So we see as this is going on, the mission is proceeding, and it's all going very well. So at that point, Amanda Waller's like, hold on. You tell Joker's daughter that we have Joker, but we don't have Joker. And he's like, yeah, well, we were hoping that if we put Joker's daughter out there, Joker himself will show up at some point. So we're not technically breaking our rules, but also, wouldn't it be awesome if we could get the Joker on the team? Imagine how much more we'd sell. I mean, be able to use this team. And she's like, I don't think you know the Joker at all. And he's like, yeah, whatever. Anyway, they're on the 26th floor. Let's watch this mission become a complete success. So they just watch the team beat the ever living crap out of these people, break a bunch of their tech, and finally they pull up a little tablet or something that says property of Mars Systems, and Victor's like, see, nothing to worry about. And then all of a sudden everything starts blowing up. And turns out that the reason everything is blowing up is that they have, I can't tell if they're giant robots or if they're normal size like Iron Man mech suits, but they got 3 of them, and they've all Russian red, and they say, cease your assault or you will be obliterated. And then you just get a little panel of Victor just being like, where did those things come from? So, yeah. First mission, things did not go well. But do they ever? So, I don't know. Like, I understand that we're kind of meant to be in Amanda's shoes here of like, why are we doing this? What did you do this for? Like, I understand that, but it doesn't make it any less infuriating by the time you get to the end of the issue, the fact that we don't have any answers. And all the answers we've been provided essentially just feel like editorial fluff provided by Victor Sage of like, we made the team badass. Look at Black Manta. He went toe-to-toe with Aquaman because he's a badass. It's like, all right, well, but like, what's the rest of the team doing, Especially Joker's daughter. I can accept Deathstroke. You just put money in front of him and he does it. Sure, fine. Joker's daughter, I need a bit more explanation here. Beyond that, it's okay. It's an all right start to the series. I'm sure that we will get more as time progresses. I know for a fact the team changes pretty significantly, so we'll see what new members we get and how long Vic Sage is even going to be around. So this is probably I'll give it a 7. It's a low 7, but it's an optimistic 7. It's hoping for better in issue 2, so here's hoping. Superman Wonder Woman number 10, written by Charles Soule, art by Paulo Siqueira and Pascal Alixe. So this is the next part of Superman Doomed. This is chapter 2 of part 3 of the event. And the last part was over in Action Comics, where Lana and Steel went off into space. Lois Lane is approaching her final form, and Superman beat up some more stuff because he's like, this might just be permanent now. So we open up with the Lana stuff. Oh, and it ended with Cyborg Superman and Brainiac's army coming to Earth. So we open up with Lana and Steel fighting off against the fleet of Brainiac's people coming down to Earth. They're basically just kiting some of them along, and it looks pretty hopeless because they are outgunned and outnumbered. And Lana's like, there's got to be something we could do. And Steel's like, our communicators are out. All we've got is short range. I'll boost the signal as much as possible. You just shout what's going on into the microphone, and hopefully Superman will be able to hear it before we die. And Lana's like, cool, can do. So I understand from like a perspective here of writing, but like she gives a preamble. She's like, hi, Superman, it's Lana Lang. I'm here with Steel. John Henry. It's like, get to the point, Lana. But either way, as she is, she's about to say, oh, it's Earth and Brainy. And then all of a sudden, this big missile strike's about to hit their ship, and Superman's just in the way. Still fully doomified, but he stops the missile. And as he's looking at the ship, we get the internal monologue between Doomsday and Clark Kent. And Doomsday is like, that whole ship is automated. There's no heartbeat on board. You could just tear it apart, man. And Clark's like, I don't usually do that for fun. He's like, well, now you do. So we see that he basically argues with himself, saying like, you have to leave yourself behind. Doomsday has to be all it is right now. You got to go all in. And it seems like he does. There's now just two versions of Doomsday talking to each other, and the ship is just utterly destroyed in seconds. So Lana and Steel look outside, and they're just like, Jesus Christ, man. I'm not sure he's Superman anymore, but maybe he's exactly what we need for this level of a threat. So back on a bridge outside of Metropolis, everyone's reporting on the fact that the whole city just went comatose, because that happened as well. And Lois Lane is just walking through the guards. Just, don't mind me, just Lois Lane, doo-doo-doo. And one of the cameraman's like, Jesus Christ, is this how she gets Pulitzer? She just walks right in past military personnel? Jesus. So once she gets into the city, she starts assembling robot like slaves. And then all of a sudden, she gushes out with energy. She's surrounded in a cocoon of technology. And seconds later, she emerges as, I'm just going to say, Lady Brainiac. She looks like a mix between Brainiac with green skin and Lois Lane with the like standard hairstyle. So all of the robots start building something. And then Wonder Woman just comes up and is like, Lois Lane, is that you? Which, I don't know how she sees that, but she's just like, hey, Wonder Woman. I was expecting to see Superman, but yeah, that's right. He's gone, isn't he? What's up? And she's just like, I'm trying to get unconscious people out of the city. What are you doing here? What's up? And he's just like, oh, yeah, that's right. You're cleaning up after your man's problems. I know how that is, girl. And she's like, okay, Lois, not sure what that's about. Anyway, did you do all this? Because it seems like you got a lot of control going on here. And she's like, I don't know, maybe. I don't really feel like I'm in control of my body right now. I feel like Brainiac's kind of just puppeteering me, and I'm just along for the ride. But I can see when he's about to do stuff. Like, he's about to hit you, and then all of a sudden a laser beam just bursts out of her forehead and blasts into Wonder Woman. So we go back into space. Steel's in like a super heavy-duty suit, which allows him to get like close enough to Superman to talk to him. And he's just like, yeah, no, I'm already being torn apart by your weird energy aura thing. Look, here's the deal. we had to come out into space because Lana figured out that there was this communication thing going on. Earth is under attack, and they're all down in Metropolis. So we need you to help deal with that. And he's like, cool, I'm going to go. Keep up if you can. Let's go deal with that. And she's like, shouldn't we wait for the Lantern Corps or something? They have an entire fleet. And he's just like, yeah, I don't need any help. So back down on Earth, we see Wonder Woman is being subjected to all of her most painful memories at the hands of Lois/Brainiac. And as soon as she's freed from the energy burst, she pulls out her lasso of truth, wraps it around Lois, and just being like, all right, don't ever do that again, because I didn't like any part of that. And then says, all right, so what are you doing, Lois? What is this for? And she's like, I serve Brainiac, and this is everything you've seen before, all this comatose stuff, that was just tests. And you want some more truth, Wonder Woman? Let me tell you this. Brainiac took both of our men away. I had John Corbin, a.k.a. Metallo. He was willing to do anything for me. He blew himself up to make this whole kryptonite cloud around planet Earth. But I found a way to keep him around. And she takes one of these robots that were being built, and she mind whammies John Corbin's consciousness into it. But it seems like it's actually just a memory of it. It's how Lois remembers him. So he says Lois, I'll do anything for you. And he's like, all right, cool, attack Wonder Woman. So back out in space, we see Cyborg Superman is talking to some Brainiac drones, and he's just like, all right, what's the reports? Are we going to do good? And he's just like, the drones are like, oh yeah, no, we've got less than 100% that anything's going to go wrong at all. We're going to have this planet tagged back in no time, and it's all because we got Superman out of the way. And then they're like, we just got to report Superman's coming back to the planet. And the drone's like, okay, I'm going to reevaluate those odds. Not looking as good. So Cyborg Superman just busts out, just like, I'm going to go deal with this now. Back down with Wonder Woman. Corbin's just beating her up. That's all that's going on here, doing her very best. Meanwhile, Lois is like, all right, that's, just buy time. That's all we're trying to do here. So Wonder Woman manages to talk to Lois and say yes, but Superman was driven away, and I came to terms with that, and you need to come to terms that John is also gone, and this is nothing but a memory, a pale shadow. And she uses her god powers, which apparently she can now just summon a fireball and incinerates Corbin and blows him up. To which Lois is pissed off about it. She grabs the head in a jar that is now John Corbin, and is just like, screw you, Wonder Woman. I'm not going to fight against Brainiac. I'm being called up, so I'm going to grab my head in a jar. Where's your man at, huh? And Wonder Woman looks all sad. And she's just like, I don't know where he is, but I know he'll do what is needed, no matter what costs. And then we see Cyborg Superman face down against big Doomsday Superman. And he's just like, what the hell are you? Why are you wearing my symbol? And he's just like, I am better than you. That's all you need to know. And he's just like, I'm going to rip that thing off your chest and shove it down your throat, man. And he's like, you can't destroy all of my ships. And he's just like, yeah, unless I cut loose. And then we see the little conversation of Doomsday and Clark once more. And Clark's just like, I have to go back and save them. It's just like, yeah, well, if you want to save them, we got to destroy the fleet. So let's do it. So yeah, that's the issue. Now that we finally hit the end of the Lois stuff, I really don't care. I haven't cared this whole time, and I kept hoping that eventually I would care, but I don't. Maybe we're not at the end. That's unfair to say, She still has the powers. God only knows what she's going to do with them. It might last for a while, but just feels like we weren't building to anything there except to make it so Lois is involved in more of a way than Lana currently is. Beyond that, it's okay. It's an all right next issue. It doesn't feel like it's really doing anything huge, but Cyborg Superman versus Doomsday was already a thing back in the 90s, so we're just doing it again, but this time, New 52. So I'm going to give this one, I'll give it a 6.5. It's all right. It's not great, but it's a fine enough next chapter. Green Lantern Corps number 33, written by Van Jensen, art by Bernard Chang. This is finally the conclusion to the Uprising crossover story event thing. Over in Green Lantern last issue, all of the Durlans got defeated, and just as Hal was feeling good about it, he got a call from John Stewart, who was left on the planet, saying, whoops, we messed up. So we pick up pretty much right after, or right before that call. We have John and Fatality are the only two people left on this planet besides the living sea of energy people. And just like, hey, yeah, we defeated all the Durlans. They're never going to hurt anyone again. And Fatality's like, I know, it's crazy. So much death. It hurts me because I'm a Star Sapphire. And he's just like, yeah, totally. Anyway, hey, we're on a beach. And I promised you a beach vacation. So how about we go like skinny dipping or something? And Fatality's like, And he's like, what? Now you're feeling shy? I didn't think you were the shy type. And she's like, you do remember the sea is made up of a bunch of living creatures, right? And they look over and there's a little like kid sitting there, like made out of fire, just like, tee-hee, are you guys going to kiss? And so Fatality walks over and be like, hey, you want me to tell you a secret about my love for him and all that? And he's just like, oh yeah, totally. And so she gets right down next and says like, there's a lot of ways that you can express love. Let me show you. And then she opens up her mouth and it turns out she's a Durlan. And she devours this kid, absorbs his energy. John's like, what the hell is going on? And it turns out she was playing the long game. She's been a Durlan for quite some time. And she has the Daxamite DNA, which is now allowing her to fully transform into a full-time Daxamite with the new energy that she has. So she transforms and she's like, haha, eons ago I was called Verat Din. That's my Durlan name. And now I'm a Daxamite. And I'm just, I'm going to keep looking like Fatality, but I'm also going to be a Daxamite just so I can really break your heart as I break your ribs. So John's like, that can't, but like, you what? And she's just like, yep, I fooled the ring the same way that the like people who were transformed to Green Lanterns fooled their rings. But now that I've, let down my disguise, the ring recognizes that it's on the wrong hand. So it tries to fly off and it's like, oh, I found the correct user. The real user's still somewhere alive. And John's like, oh, hooray. But then the fake Durlan Fatality grabs the ring and just crushes it in her hand. So John sends the message saying, hey, oops, we messed up. And then it's just a big old fight between John and fake Fatality. And basically, she's just like tearing him down, just being like, I slept next to you. We made love. And all that time, I just wanted to murder you. But I bit my tongue and I did what needed to be done because I believed in the cause and whatnot. Now I'm going to go free those Durlans. I'm going to get them back here onto this planet and we're all going to become Daxamites. So she punches them down into like the bottom of the energy sea. All the people in this sea scatter, letting them have their fight. And Fatality's like, hey, don't even worry about it. I'm not going to eat any more of you. All I needed was the one. But like, trust me, I'm bringing more. So John conjures up a truck. Then like a sniper rifle, a bazooka, just blows Fatality away after he gets over it. He's like, you're not the woman I loved. I'm just going to beat the ever-living crap out of you now. So as he's going for a final shot, fake Fatality's like, all I've been doing is the super strength part of the Daxamites. Let's try out the other powers. So she uses heat vision, which strikes John in the abdomen. And he's just like, all right, well, I'm going to go fly back off to Mogo, and I'm going to go free my fellow Durlans, and we're all going to come back here, and I'm going to let you watch as we destroy Mogo. Okay, cool, great, bye. So back on Mogo, we see, they're not expecting it. They're waiting. A couple of the guards are like, gosh, man, I hope that nothing happens to get these Durlans off the planet. And then Fatality comes in and just immediately is like, where are the Durlans being held? Tell me, and I will not kill you as quickly. But then a bunch of Green Lanterns come in because obviously Hal has scrambled the troops. Hey, everybody, let's go. So we see a bunch of them coming in trying to take out this fake Fatality. They get in some good shots, but she's just like, I'm Daxamite now. It tickles. It doesn't even bother me, the fact that I'm being attacked anymore. So Hal goes to the cells where the Durlans are being held. He talks to Daggle, and Daggle's just like, all right, look, I'm not going to be good in this fight, but I can watch after the Durlans. You guys go do your thing. I promise I'll watch over them. And so Hal and everybody flies off, and the Durlans start talking to Daggle, being like, "You're a traitor. How dare you? We're your people." And he's just like, "You do understand that, like, the Durlans died because of infighting within the Durlans. Yes, the Green Lanterns, like, didn't help, but, like, we killed ourselves. So maybe it's time we finish the job." And apparently Daggle's been talking to Mogo, and, like, Mogo agrees. So inside all of the cells, there is a flower that just spurts out some sort of chemical agent or something, and Mogo's just like, "Yep, I've seen the eons. I know the war always carries a great cost." So Fatality's still fighting against a bunch of them. We see one of the lanterns named Oliversity, a big snake one. He wraps up Fatality, and then Fatality uses her cold breath, freeze breath, whatever you want to call it, on Oliversity and punches him into a million pieces, killing him. So the ring goes flying off away. Fatality finally finds Daggle. He puts up like a little itty bitty shield that she just punches right through. And she's like, "Haha, I'm here to free the Durlans. Wait, where are the Durlans?" And Daggle reveals that he didn't kill him, but he talked to Mogo. They figured out like the radioactive isotope stuff that fuels them, and they made a counter for it so that all of the Durlans will always be formless forevermore. They are unable to take another form. And Fatality's like, "Oh, I'll kill you for this." But then John swoops in. He's coming in for the save. They go and they fight each other. And Fatality realizes she's getting ever so slightly weaker. And it turns out it's because Daxamites also need a yellow sun to do their thing. So Mogo's just moving away from the sun as fast as he can. And she's just like, "No, I'm not going to let you take away my power." So as she's trying to fly up closer to the sun again, Hal's got a fighter jet construct, and she's just like, "Why do you're not going to fly any faster inside a fighter jet. Why are you trying to, like, just fly after me, man?" And he's like, "Because this one's got missiles." And he fires them off, takes Fatality back down to the ground. All the lanterns just dogpile on, making as many constructs as they can to keep her still until the sun has completely disappeared from Mogo's skies and Fatality has no more energy left. So John comes up, very betrayed. He makes a knife construct and just holds it to her throat and says, like, "I know this isn't going to, like, do anything to help the core and, like, what I've done, but it's going to make me feel better." And he's, like, about to slit her throat. There's blood coming down the knife. And then he pulls back and says, like, "Get her out of my sight." So Hal's like, "Bro, hey, look, we all were fooled. Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal." And he's like, "Nah, it's a big deal, man. I've been literally sleeping with the enemy, and I'm not okay with that. I need to go out there and find the actual Fatality. Like, Yura, she's somewhere out there for real. I'm going to go get her." And then the final page thing that we get here is elsewhere. It turns out there's a thing called the Shadow Empire, and there's a weird little creepy girl who's got some weird little monsters, and it turns out this is all part of their plan, and this was only step one in taking out the lanterns, and it's a whole thing. So yeah, except for that last page, I liked it. I'm curious if I went back to see whether or not certain, like, things that Fatality did over the course of the series would make more sense as a Durlan. Like, if she, like, purposely was losing a lot or something like that. I don't know. I'd be curious to see how far out in advance that was played. I have to assume for a while. But no, I think it's as much as I think the last issue was the proper ending when I read it, I think that actually having one of the Durlans become a Daxamite and it being like a betrayal at the same time, okay, that makes more sense as an ending. That feels like higher stakes. You finally did it. You made one of them a Daxamite. It works. And now this one's like under more important care because not only is it a Daxamite now, but like also one of the last Durlans. So overall, solid issue. I think it ends the event pretty nicely. I don't care for that last little like post-credit scene stinger of like, "Oh, but all of this was actually just a ploy." It's like, shut up. Just have your event. Yeah, no, it's a solid 7 for me. It's fine enough ending. The event overall was kind of just haphazardly thrown together, but it works and it makes the universe feel just a little bit more connected. Detective Comics number 33, Brian Buccellato writing, Francis Manapul on writing and art. So, last issue, Batman fought a giant squid, he won, and then at the end of the issue, we got a whole thing of a different gang showed up, threatening the gang that Batman was there for, and everyone's in a Mexican standoff. So, we see a bunch of cops arriving at the place where these gangs are standing off, and everyone just starts firing at each other because the brother, what's his name, Lawrence, I think, of one of these guys is shot and he's unable to do it. The name of the guy who's from the other one called the Kings of the Sun is Holter, and he's there because Lawrence's brother, I'm not even sure what his name is, Johnny, there you go, he didn't uphold whatever part of his deal there was, and therefore they've come for him, but Holter's the one who ends up getting, or not Holter, Lawrence ends up getting shot either way. Anyway, literally, I don't know how much that matters, but Batman's trying to break up the fight, trying to stop people from shooting. But of course, a few other people do get shot as Batman's fighting through them. And then the cops show up, and he's like, they just say, freeze, everybody on the ground. We got a whole SWAT team. That includes you, Batman. We don't want you pulling anything, but let us see your hands. And so he puts up his hands, and he fires off his little wrist spikes, which causes a smoke screen for him to hide in. And by the time the cops are able to get eyes on them again, Batman's gone. So we then go to Bullock, who has taken into custody this one guy. I can't even remember if he picked him up last issue, but he's in deep because of like the human trafficking down at the docks and whatnot. And Bullock's just taking him down an alley and is beating the crap out of him. Won some answers, and Bullock's like, I used to be a boxer, you see, but then I got some extra pounds, and now I'm a real heavyweight. So tell me what I need to know. Who's your boss? Is it Bruce Wayne? And he's just like, no, it's not. But if I tell you who, they'll kill me. He's like, I'll do it anyway. So he admits that it's Congressman Sam Young. Bruce Wayne has nothing to do with it. And Bullock's like, great, awesome. We're going to put you in jail now. And he's just like, you signed my death warrant. I'm going to die. And he's just like, well, probably not. His other detective named Maggie Yip comes up saying like, hey, I got a lead on that missing cargo you were looking for. You got a second? And Bullock's just like, hubba, hubba. Yes, pretty lady, I sure can. In a more respectful tone, but essentially that. So Maggie basically says, okay, so down at the dock, that guy you were just beating up, he was doctoring all the paperwork, allowing stuff in, but they also had some permits for some radioactive material, which is super weird because they shouldn't have needed that at all. We also think that there is a abandoned power plant, the Kane power plant, and that's where it would have made their hazardous material like undetectable. So that's worth checking out. And Bullock's like, all right, will do. Have a good night. So we go to outside the Gotham City limits. There is some weird, like, members from that Kings of the Sun gang, and they're waiting for a truck, but the truck never shows. Turns out that Alfred used some traffic data to trace motorcycles that were going off the grid, and they ended up here. So Batman's like, good job, Alfred. I'm going to hang back and just take some images, and we'll run some scans on it. So they get some serial numbers and some other stuff. But they also see inside of this place is a photos of Annette Aguila, who is, of course, the young girl whose mother was killed back at the start of this arc. So they think that's weird. Meanwhile, over at Annette's place, she has a knock on the door. She's like, who the hell is this? She opens it up. It's the dude from the Kings of the Sun. He's just like, hey, we got something you might want. And they show Johnny and say, this is the guy who killed your mom. So back at the Batcave, Bruce just lays it all out for Alfred. They say the whole plan here. And it turns out that with Batman Eternal going on over in its own book, Kings of the Sun made a power play. They wanted to get some radioactive material stuff going on, so they did a manufacturing lab to make Icarus, which requires radioactive material, the drug. They had to do, because of some shipping containers from earlier on, they had a batch down in Louisiana. Turns out that the Aguila family is also from Louisiana, New Orleans specifically, so that's just too coincidental for it to be a thing. Also, with all the photos down there, they're deeply personal. They're not just like cut out of tabloids or whatever. So like something is going on that's linking the Aguilas to this Kings of the Sun group. So we go back to Aguila's apartment, and the guy's basically explaining it, saying like, hey, this guy, he killed your mom. I can't stand by that because I actually knew your mom. We grew up together. We were super close. In fact, we were lovers, and she kept me from you and kept you away from me. But now that she's dead, we found each other. I'm your dad, Annie, and here's a gun. Take your revenge on the dude who killed your mom because we lost so much because of him. So then we go to Kane Laboratories, which is apparently just completely beaten down and whatever. This is where Bullock's checking out what's going on. And as soon as he walks in, he knows that Batman's there. He's just like, stop hiding. Come on out. Like, I'm not going to... you think the city needs someone like you, but it needs someone like me, an actual honest-to-God detective. And we see this purple glow is like growing behind them throughout this scene. And Batman's like, oh, someone like you, Bullock? Back when this Icarus stuff started in a Flash tie-in, you covered for your partner. You made a bad cop sound good. And Bullock's just like, don't you ever talk about my partner that way. And they basically... Bullock just starts throwing punches at Batman, and Batman doesn't fight back immediately, but he's just like, oh, are you done yet? And he says, nah, not at all. Batman's like, all right, cool then, let's do it. So as they're throwing punches to each other, Batman ends up punching him in the face, but we also see that weird purple glowing man from like 2 issues ago down at the docks. He's now just marching down the street, and it seems like he causes some sort of nuclear explosion outside of where Bullock and Batman are fighting. So, I'll be honest with you. I think that this plot, this story looks great. Manapul's art, fantastic. But I lost the plot somewhere along the way here. It feels to me like DC came to Buccellato and Manapul and said, look, we're giving you 2 issues less than you were expecting. Wrap up your thing that you already started quick. And I had nothing to back that up, but that's how it feels like. It feels like we are just sprinting to a finish line now rather than letting this sort of detective story play out. Everything's moving at super speed. The fact that we have Bruce Wayne over the course of like 3 pages just explain everything just feels so rushed to me. And on top of that, I feel like I don't have a good grip on the powers that are playing here. We've got a congressman. We've got at least 2 gangs. Bullock's doing some stuff against Batman. We've got this Aguirre family. I just don't know. I lost the plot somewhere along the way. It's not bad. I'm still interested in the story, but like, it's every time I start a new issue, I feel like I'm missing something in between, and I got to go back and read the previous issue to like remind myself what is going on. So overall, I can't in good conscience give this like a 7. I'm going to stick with a 6.5. I think a lot of that is the art. If this book looked badly and was still written the same way, I honestly don't know if it would crack a 5. It hasn't done enough to set up the players that it's using, and it's so stylistically done that sometimes it loses me along the way as to like who is what and where we are. So I'll give this a 6.5, but it's on thin ice for right now. Batgirl number 33, written by Gail Simone, art by Fernando Pasarin. So last issue, Nightfall's apparently making her big move. She's doing some stuff. Batgirl's fed up with it. Batgirl got contacted by a secret agent who wants Barbara Gordon to join her and like fake her death. That happened, and then Ricky got his brother's hand mailed to him because he was gonna sue Jim Gordon. So all that happened, and then at the very end, as Black Canary and Batgirl are about to go fight Nightfall, Huntress just shows up. And she's like, hi, I'm Huntress. I'm not from around here. What's going on? And immediately Batgirl and Black Canary square up. And Batgirl throws a heavy punch directly into Huntress's face. And she's like, those are Nightfall's colors. I don't know this person. They're decked out in weapons. I don't like any of this. And she just continues to beat the ever-loving crap out of Huntress as we see like flashbacks over the course of everything that's gone wrong in Batgirl's life over the past, like, honest to God, it goes back to when Ricky lost his leg. So like, I guess 20 issues. And as she continues beating up Huntress, Black Canary pulls her off, just being like, whoa, hey, she's got a ton of weapons and she's not fighting back. So clearly she's not here to hurt you. And Batgirl's got like a explosive batarang ready, and she's just like, all right, fair enough. So she puts it away, she takes a breath, and she's like, hey, this is awkward. I'm Batgirl, and she reaches into her pocket, and Huntress is like, if you're going to throw something at me, I will start fighting back. And she's like, no, here, it's a napkin. You got some red on you. So she passes it over to Huntress, and Huntress is like, yeah, well, okay, so I'm Huntress. I'm from way out of town, but Gotham means something to me, so I want to help because there's some chatter that something like really crazy is going down. And Batgirl's like, well, I've never heard of you. She's like, oh, what, you remember everybody you've ever heard of? And she's like, yeah, I do. That's kind of my thing. So basically Batgirl says, all right, you can be part of the team if you tell us your true identity. And Huntress is like, that doesn't really seem fair. And Black Canary agrees. He's like, look, she took a beating from you and she's still just talking to us. So clearly she's tough. Let's just let her be on the team. And Batgirl's like, fine, whatever. So they sit down, they talk about it for a while, and Batgirl gives the information as to like why it's so hard to take down Nightfall, because nobody has all the information, and anytime any one piece is attacked, everything just shifts around, so you can't get any updated information. And then Huntress is like, okay, well, do you have any lead on like one of the higher ups as to how we could like figure out where one of them are? And Batgirl's like, okay, I kind of do a little bit. So as Barbara, she goes and she talks to her roommate Alicia. It's like 4 a.m, and Barbara's just like, hey, Alicia, you remember a couple issues ago when you tried to like bomb that building that was doing like experiments on animals and stuff? Who told you to do that? I need a name. Tell me who it was. And immediately Alicia's like, don't think I don't know what's going on. You show up covered in bruises. You do all like this amateur detective work stuff. Like, I know exactly what you are. And Barbara's just like, oh, she knows my secret. And then Alicia says, you're an undercover cop, aren't you? And he's just like, okay, yeah, let's run with that. So yes, I am. And something bad is going to happen. I need the name of the person who contacted you. And she says that it's Mikel. So we then go up to Bleak Mikel, who's part of Nightfall's thing, and we see, his powers, as we saw before, is chemical stuff. He's able to like throw it out of his hands. Nightfall's fighting against Bonebreaker. I swear to God, I would not have remembered any of these names if they did not remind me in this issue. And he's just like, hey, so Gotham has enemies. I'm ready to do whatever is necessary, Nightfall. And Nightfall's like, good. That's why at midnight tonight, if Gotham does not answer my call or whatever, I am going to launch a massive attack to basically kill all of the criminals. All of them will die. So that's what we're going to do. And we see that Bonebreaker has called in everyone. They're all ready to attack. So down in the parking garage, as Mikel walks to his car, our trio jumps in, says like, hey, Mikel, let's have a talk. He starts throwing chemical balls. Batgirl blocks Huntress from getting hit with her cape, and then they launch into an attack. The car that Mikel was about to get into just disintegrates under his touch, and she's like, all right, he's a lot stronger than I remember. And so Huntress just leaps in, tackles him into the car, and knocks him out. And Batgirl's like, all right, that was dangerous. Why'd you jump in like that? And Huntress is like, because he was attacking my partner. And Batgirl and her are like, yeah, all right, we got a little thing going on. So there is a witness who's just a random ass person. The person's just like, I'm not a witness. I was just here for my car. I didn't see nothing. And so they pick up Mikel and drag him away. And as he wakes up, they're just like, hey, your first instinct might be to use your acid ability from your hands. I suggest you don't. And it shows that they have tied him up by his hands off of a hook dangling over like a building. So Bonebreaker, of course, they were seen picking up Mikel. Bonebreaker tells Nightfall, like, hey, they got Mikel. We got to do a thing. And Nightfall's just in a bed with like 2 ridiculously hot dudes. And she's just like, oh, of course. All right, well, get ready. We're going to send a squad to go find him and get ready for our operation. And Michael's like telling the group of girls, like, I'm not afraid to die. I'm willing to die. And Batgirl starts talking, being like, hey, look, I know you care about this city, Gotham. So do I. We can make it better. You can be a hero. We can save all of Gotham. I just need to know what to do, Mikel. And Michael's like, I can't tell you. It's not going to happen, Batgirl. And then the squad busts in, and it looks like they're coming to attack Batgirl and crew. So they start fighting against, but they're not firing any shots against Batgirl's crew. Instead, once one of them has a line of sight on Mikel, they try to shoot him, because obviously he's a liability at this point. So Batgirl manages to kick the gun away, but the shot goes off and knocks off the thing that Mikel was hanging from. So he starts falling to his death. Batgirl plunges and grabs onto him at the last second. And he's like, I could just burn you alive right now, right? And she's like, well, I'm kind of trusting that you won't do that. So Huntress and Black Canary beat the rest of the guys. And when they pull up Mikel, it's just like, all right, yeah, she was going to kill me. I'm on your side now. At midnight tonight, 15 hours from now, every criminal either has to leave Cherry Hill or they will die. So that's what's happening. And Batgirl's like, there's no way there's enough people. And he's just like, yeah, there are. She's hired mercenaries from all over the world. There's going to be a massive attack tonight. Like, they're all going to die. And so the rest of the crew talks, and they're just like, okay, well, clearly we don't have enough hands. So who are we going to call in here? And Batgirl says, we're going to call everyone. So we see her call Detective McKenna. She calls... I'm already blanking on her name from the movement. The one that was originally with Nightfall and then left. Whatever. Catharsis? That sounds right. The secret agent lady from last issue. And also telling the secret agent lady, hey, if you've got a bunch of contacts, I need all of them to show up tonight as well. So bring all of them. And then Batgirl's like, all right, just one more call I need to make. And she calls up Batman and says, I'm going to need to borrow the boat. So... next issue, as far as I know, is the final issue of Gail Simone's run. There is the Future's End tie-in, but yeah, we're getting conclusions next issue. This was okay. I mean, the plot to kill all the criminals or else, like, they die, that seems to have come out of nowhere. It definitely feels rushed. It feels like someone told Gail Simone, hey, you're off the book in 2 issues, wrap it up. But, I mean, I felt like last issue was rushed as well, so this is just par for the course on that. Overall, I'm going to give this one I'm going to give it a 7. But I have to say that an entire half point is a 2-page spread where Batgirl just punches Huntress in the face, and it is so unnecessarily bloody and detailed, but like, I have to kind of appreciate it. It's just so bombastically out there that I half a point for that at the minimum. So everything else is okay. Let's just see how we manage to stick the landing next time. Birds of Prey number 33, written by Christy, Marx, art by Scott McDaniel and Robson Rocha. So last issue, the Birds of Prey had to go in and save this dude who was a friend of Mother Eve, and then Suicide Squad showed up and said, hey, actually, we're here to save this guy, so go away now. So this issue picks up with the guy, whatever his name is, I don't think it matters. He's like watching these two groups of superhumans argue over him, and he's just like, all right, well, this is crazy. So we then have the breakdown from Amanda Waller's point of view, saying, here's the Birds of Prey's team, here's what the Suicide Squad is, and here's, like, what should I do now? Because this was unexpected that the Birds of Prey would be here. And Batgirl basically turns to Harley saying, like, you remind me of the Joker, and I have some trauma with that. And Harley's like, okay, I have trauma with bat people. What about it? And immediately a fight breaks out. So Deadshot starts shooting at him. Condor redirects the bullets to blow up his wrist gauntlets. And Condor says, like, that's it. I'm out of energy. I ran out last issue, but, like, that's really the end of it. Canary does a scream at King Shark, and he just tanks it. Like, he may not even have ears, to which she then starts jumping over, trying to distract King Shark. Boomerang goes for the hostage and is trying to go pick him up, and Strix swoops in, kicks Boomerang in the chest. Harley's going after Batgirl, ends up accidentally hitting Deadshot in the face with her mallet. Boomerang throws a boomerang at Strix. Batgirl counteracts it with her own batarang. And then Dinah just says out loud, just screams out to the crew, everyone shut up. I just won Amanda Waller, and we're gonna be good here. And Deadshot's like, never heard of her. Anyway, can we continue fighting? And that's when Waller steps out from behind a wall, being like, all right, everyone stop. I'm here. I'm up. What's going on? And Deadshot's like, hey, this is the second time that you have just stepped out into the open. What's up with that? And she's just like, this is personal. And what about the last time? That was also personal. So Canary, who is now able to fly because of text she got last issue, says, all right, Canary, like, Waller, did you get my message? And Waller's like, yep. So that's why I'm here. And Batgirl's like, what do you mean message? What's going on? And Condor says, like, hey, it was a personal thing. I didn't think anything of it, but like I sent it. And Batgirl's like, what was the message? What was it? And Canary says the message was, I have Kurt Lance. And Deadshot explains, wait a minute, wasn't that a whole subplot in the Suicide Squad book that we just kind of dropped and forgot about? And Harley's like, yep, I guess we're picking it up here. So they place bets on who's going to win between Canary and Amanda. And then Amanda's just like, all right, was it a lie? Do you not have Kurt? Because if I'm here, like, what do you want? Why am I even here? And Canary just leaps in saying, I want you, grabs Waller, and flies off. The Suicide Squad is like, if she dies, we're going to die because of the bombs in her neck, so we need to go get her. And then the rest of the Birds of Prey are like, I don't know what Canary's up to, but clearly she wants some alone time, so we're going to run interference. And they continue fighting against the Suicide Squad. So Dinah and Amanda drop onto a roof, and basically Waller's just like, so is it true? Do you have him? Just like, yeah, we rescued him from Regulus. And they just start fighting. They just start going at it. Dinah's whole thing is, you kept him secret. You had him for an extended period of time, and you knew he was alive, and you didn't tell me. And I was left to think that A, I killed him, and B, that everyone else thought I killed him. And Waller's like, all right, look, you know that he was like turned, like, Regulus was a demented version of our teammate back on Team 7. And it's like, yes, he was also merged with the Kaizen. And Waller's like, oh, I didn't actually even know that part. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. But yeah, he was dead. I brought him back to life, like actually resurrected him. So he was killed. That was on you. But yeah, no, the reason that people were after you was not because you killed your husband. It's because you took down an island at the end of Team 7 with your damn voice. And Kurt is what allows you to trigger your ability. So yes, I had to keep him separated from you. So we go back one last time to the Suicide Squad fight, and Batgirl's chaining up King Shark, and then she gets hit with a couple boomerangs. Deadshot pulls out some guns to fight against Condor. He seems to try to deflect them. Harley is happy to be fighting a Talon because it says that she's finally able to cut loose because don't have to worry about making a mess. But then Strix just holds her at knife point, and that seems to be the end of it. And then we go to the Waller fight with Dinah one more time, and Dinah's like, I thought we were friends. I thought we were teammates, but you've always been just using me. You're manipulative and jealous, aren't you? And Waller's like, Jesus Christ, do you think this is high school? Are we on the friggin' CW right now? Yeah, of course I did. That's the real world. And Dinah basically says, you wanted to steal my husband and keep him for yourself. And Waller says, you want the truth? Fine, but you're not going to like it because truth is uglier than those pretty little lies that you're telling yourself. So, got one more issue of this and then a Futures End tie-in. I get why we're doing this. I get that if you're bringing Kurt back and you've been planning that for a while and then you're told, okay, the series is ending, that you kind of want to get to the point that you think is the most important in terms of dealing with the Kurt stuff. And the fact that Suicide Squad, Team 7, all of that was dealing with the Kurt stuff. And we never got a finality on that. I get why we're coming back here and we're going to do some big reveals of like what exactly is going on with Waller and the Team 7 and all this other stuff. I get why we're doing it. I just don't like it. I think that the Suicide Squad book was always a little bit unfocused, especially when it came to the Basilisk Regulus stuff. That was the part of this book that I disliked the most. The fact that we got Kurt and we introduced this Mother Eve stuff, it did feel like it was a bit more focused, but now we're just going back to that same well again. It's not that it's poor or anything like that. I just personally, subjectively do not like the content. I think that this is the weakest aspect of all of the stuff we've been doing with Kurt Lance, because he has appeared in tons of books, Teen Titans, Superboy, Suicide Squad. Anytime Basilisk has been around, Kurt Lance has been shortly behind. And I just never found it interesting. Nobody ever gave me a reason to care. So, yeah, I'm going to say this one is it's a 6 for me. It's still, I'm trying to balance my subjective here with like how much it is objectively just decently well written. It is fine in terms of writing. I just don't like it. And if we could just if this is finally the capper on it, if this is finally, and here's the last thing we ever need to say about Basilisk, Regulus, or Kurt Lance, I will be more than happy with that as an ending. But somehow I doubt it. But we'll see what comes in at the final issue of Birds of Prey. Superboy number 33, written by Aaron Kuder, art by Jorge Jimenez. So last issue, Superboy went into a secret room, found the alternate timeline version of himself, but like earlier in the timeline, and then went to touch him, and then all of a sudden we had like 50 different Superboys. So this issue picks up out in the Alaskan forest outside of the Nowhere base. We get the Ravagers who were there, and Hammersmith and Leash, and they're like, all right, I don't know what the hell happened there. That was crazy. Apparently, Leash makes some really dated references to the 90s, and it turns out he's been in cryosleep ever since then, to which Hammersmith's like, that makes a lot of sense. That explains the bandana and why you look like a LIFO creation. Anyway, so he raises Leash up to see over the trees, and it turns out that there's this giant pink energy storm going on around the base, and they're like, is that one of our defenses? No? All right, we're just going to let that ride itself out then. So inside the base, we see Superboy's team is trying to figure out what's going on, but none of their like tech or whatever is able to make it through the bubble. And they say, yeah, no, something's going on. It's a tachyon shell, same sort of thing that Superboy had on him. So we might be time traveling or something. I don't know. But regardless, we need to boost our signal to be able to get through it. And they look up and they see a giant satellite dish on the side of the building. So they're like, all right, well, we just got to get inside the building, hack into the mainframe, and then we can use that to signal whatever it is we need. But as they go into the building, they see, once again, like 50 different Superboys. So then we go to the little boy version of John Kent, who's got like all the backpack and stuff like that we've seen throughout his like nightmare sequences. And the actual version of Con-El, the clone that was from the original part of this book. And they start talking to each other. And John is like, who are you, like the actual Con? Like, what's up? And she's like, yeah, I mean, for the most part I am. And you're the actual John Kent, the one who like I was cloned from. And he's like, yeah, but like I'm supposed to be older. Why am I a kid? And he's like, oh, well, we're in your mental space. We're like okay, this is, our minds are controlling this, but we are actually in our own little pocket universe right now because our timeline kicked us out of it. And John says, what you talking about? And this is where we get, no joke, just 5 straight pages of explanation of what the hell has been happening over the course of like the past 12 issues. And I love it because I needed this so badly. So turns out there's like a blue energy Superboy in the room with all the other Superboys, and this is that version. And it turns out that because John went to go touch an earlier version of himself in the same timeline, because they have been traveling through time so much, they are actually producing tachyons from themselves, giving off that energy, which the universe doesn't know how to deal with. And once the two of them touched, it was too much energy, and the universe just said, you know what? I'm done with you, and kicked them out of the timeline. They also say how time is not a direct cause of cause and effect, but actually it's more like a big ball of wibbly wobbly timey-wimey stuff, and that, you know, hyper time exists. You're able to move through different branches and become different things, and that's where all the other Superboys came from, because with all that tachyon energy, all the different branches kind of just coalesced into one spot. So they say, yeah, we created a new universe in order to hold us because we have that much power in us right now, and that's where we're at now. We have this, like, that's what we're doing. And so then John asks, okay, well, what about you? Were you always like that voice that was talking to me? And he's like, sort of, kind of. Because of the way Teen Titans ended, I was actually killed during Krypton Returns, and then I was made to be like the servant of the Oracle. It's a whole thing, and he literally says, like, I don't want to get into it. But the thing is that because your guys' like energy was so great, it called to me. I managed to get out of the shell I was in, and I came here to like be the bridge between the two of you in the timeline. So yeah, all that was going on. Regardless, John, in his mind, he ages back up when they start talking about the original timeline version and basically saying like, yeah, that guy is like a murderer. He will kill without a second thought. I'm not that anymore. So I don't know what I am, but like we got to figure out what we're supposed to do here. So we cut back into the real world and all the Superboys are fighting each other. Rose Wilson is like, I don't know what the hell's going on. Someone please explain this to me. We see there's a Bizarro boy who's super pissed off. And then all of a sudden there is a Superman who comes down, and he might even be a Superboy, but he says, listen to me, all of you, you're all powerful, and if you join me, we can make a force that no universe could ever stop. Join me or die. And then all of a sudden that Superman is eviscerated by the true John Con version, the blue one, where he's like, all right, that guy was a dick. Hey, everybody, I'm John and Con. Hey, Rose, good to see you again. And Rose is like, I have no idea what's happening right now. Who are you? So all of them just like start backing away slowly. And Con is like, oh, wait, no, guys, look, I'm able to see the whole like time stream, including all the different paths it would take. He points to the tech guy and says like, Peter, you use like in one reality, you actually became one with the technology that you love so much, and he causes that to happen. He just makes Peter turn into tech like a cyborg, and he says, Michael, you were already a hero, but I can make you the best hero that you could possibly be, and he turns him into that. We see Rose becomes a more fully realized version of herself, where she was able to take down Batman, Roz, and Deathstroke all in one fight. And he turns to Needy, the girl who's super into him, and says like, you are strong and smart and you have incredible willpower, which means in one universe, you were a Green Lantern. And then boom, she's a Green Lantern now. But then all of a sudden he starts getting a little bit more corrupted. He's like, I can't control my powers. And he looks at two other people and be like, in a lot of universes, you two are dead. And then they just die. And he's like, all right, well, got to figure out what to do there. So back inside of the mind space in the like pocket universe, we see that the third John comes out, the one that was in the tube, the one that's still murderous, and his urges come out, and he's like, I've been waiting all this time, I've been in the stasis tube, and now you guys show up and you're trying to take my universe from me, the world where I am? No, screw you. And he starts fighting against them. It seems like he gets pretty much a solid shot off on him. He's taking full control. Everyone's like, what are we supposed to do here? But as the energy becomes too great, the three of them separate into three different Superboys, and the group is scattered around. They're just like, what's going on? Needy's Green Lantern ring is like, oh, there's now 2 extra life forms that were not accounted for originally. But we see that the original John Lane Kent, he has now got his own body. He is now healed. And he says, all right, you're all going to die. And that then leads into the final issue of Superboy. I am so happy we got an issue that just has like 4 straight pages of here's exactly what's happening and we're going to work through it as best we can. And I like skipped over a lot of it because it is dense. It is very, very dense, but I appreciate that. That's the thing. If you want to tell like a really complicated story, that's fine. You can leave up mysteries for a while, but like don't ever make it to the point where the readers feel like they don't have any hope of figuring out what's going on. And I was really getting that in this book for like 2 issues in a row here, because it just kind of felt very thrown together. But now that we got this and it's a full explanation and they didn't leave anything out, like they tied everything up together in a bow, I am so much more pleased with this book. And now I understand the stakes of what's going on in this final fight here. All of the different time stream Superboys are around to some extent, and when they had this power combined, they were able to manipulate the time stream and pull like different versions in. And now we've got to fight against the main original bad John Kent to show the character growth that our new John Kent has. I'm down for that. Plus we got Khan back through time stream shenanigans. So all in all, solid issue. I think that is possibly the best thing that could have happened to this book in a long time. I'm going to give this one I'm going to give it a straight 8. it's purely because of how bad the book was going on before. So just by like comparativeness, it's that high. It probably would not be that high just objectively, but I like it. I like it that much. It's getting an 8. Justice League United number 3, written by Jeff Lemire, art by McKone. So last issue we had the team getting to the room with the evil scientist Bith, and then the super baby called Ultra activated or whatever, and it caused a big explosion. This issue we picked back up in Ontario, where if you remember the woman named Miyabin, I really hope they give her a nickname at some point. She wakes up, she's in like a block of ice sort of thing, her arms and legs are bound, and she thinks she sees a dark figure. She's like, oh, is that Heather, my friend? Come help me. And turns out it's not. It is her grandfather, but immediately she's like, you're not my granddad. What's going on? And the creature introduces itself as one of the 7, to which she has no idea what that means. And they hear a roar of a beast coming down. She's like, oh, you have to help me. Please free me. And he's like, look. All of our people, all of our tribe have the 7 within them. But you're special because you also have the Witago, the beast, inside of you. So you can make it go away with just only a word. And she yells out, no, I won't. And then the grandfather, the one of the 7 or whatever, becomes the Witago in front of her. We don't get any more of that. Just know that happened. Anyway, we cut back to the Citadel on Ranagar, and immediately Hawkman, Adam Strange, Bith, and the baby teleport into the room, and they're like, hey, great, we got him out during the explosion. But then they look around, it's like, wait, where are the others? Oh, crap, they must have teleported somewhere else. Something went wrong with our Zeta beam. And then the little baby starts waking up, who I will call Ultra at this point. Ultra starts waking up, and Bith's like, haha, I'm finally able to use this. It's all working out for me. So all the other heroes got teleported to a desert out in it says Ranagar. I'm like 99% sure the name of the planet is Ran. But regardless, they managed to see the explosion in a building nearby. So they're like, okay, we got to go and we got to deal with that. Supergirl uses her vision to see that Hawkman, Adam Strange, and Bith and the baby are there. So she's like, all right, we got to go do that. Before she can do anything, Lobo comes in, punches Supergirl in the back of the head, says like, hey, sorry, I got a contract I need to fulfill with Supergirl. Don't worry about it. Green Arrow fires an explosive arrow, to which Lobo just tanks. He's like, okay, but that gives enough time for Supergirl to get up, picks up Lobo, and just punches him halfway across the planet. To which Animal Man's like, nice punch. And then Green Arrow's like, what about my arrow? And he's like, nice punch. So Supergirl's like, hey, I'm going to go after Lobo. Mark Manner's like, no. He's a different arc villain. Let's go deal with Bith and the baby now. We're going to need your strength. Is everyone cool? And they're like, yep, sure, let's go. And then all of a sudden, Alana, she gets teleported out and switches places with Adam Strange. And they're like, okay, something's clearly wrong with the Zeta Beam. We need to get up to that Zeta Beam room. So they go up. Alana's in Adam Strange's place. And the scientist guy is like, okay, something's wrong with the Zeta Beam. Those two are caught in a loop where they're just going to keep on trading places. And if the core of this Zeta Beam goes critical, everyone on the planet's going to die. So we got to figure out what's going on there. Meanwhile, Bith and the baby have disappeared. So Alana and Adam Strange switch again, which almost causes Alana to fall out of the sky as the rest of the group is flying over, but Animal Man catches her. They arrive at the Citadel and start getting caught up. They figure out what's going on. As Alana and Adam approach each other, they start feeling intense headaches. So they're like, okay, we got to figure out what to do with these two immediately. And the head scientist guy, Sardath, that's his name, is like, okay, hold on, I got a quick and dirty fix. And he just teleports Alana back to Earth and says that'll stop their switching, and also they won't be near enough to be in pain anymore. So that's that. Marsh Manor is like, cool, awesome. We're gonna go fix the baby. Adam Strange, Animal Man, and Hawkman stay here to help with fixing the Zeta Core. Everyone else, we're going for the baby. And Hawkman's like, hey, Bith is Thanagarian and my responsibility. And Marsh Manhunter's like, bro, I was the leader of Justice League of America. You were a member of that team. Do not talk back to me. And he's like, fair enough. So they go off and fly off. We see Bith and the baby, who the baby's now rapidly aging. He's already a toddler at this point. And Bith is like, hey, I didn't mean to scare you. I'll take care of you. You just got to do what I say, okay? Got it? And the baby's like, ah. So he's like, cool, great, awesome. So at that point, the rest of the team catches up to Bith. And Supergirl, as far as I can tell, just picks up Bith and just tackles him away. Just gets into a fight elsewhere. We see him using his shape-shifting ability to turn into Red Lantern version of her, saying like, hey, remember this? You were Red Lantern. You were so powerful. I liked you better like that. And she's like, stop it. That's weird. So at that point, she uses heat vision and just like zaps him. We go back to the Zeta Beam room where it doesn't seem like there's going to be anything they can do. So they get the core out of the thing, and Hawkman says, I need you to take this apart. I'm going to take the core and I'm going to fly it away from the city. Go to Martian Manhunter, who does a mental telepathy connection with Ultra. And he's like, hey, you can't really understand my language if I talk to you normally. So here in your little mental space, I just we'll talk through like feelings and stuff. And I want you to know that that guy was a bad guy. I am not a bad guy. I will help you if you trust me. Can you let me help you? And Ultra's like, he starts like half transforming into a Martian looking creature. And then we see that he accepts the help, and Martian Manhunter promises that nothing's going to get to him. So back in the Zeta Beam room, Hawkman takes the thing and he's like, hey, look, you, Animal Man, you got family. Adam Strange, you got Alana. I don't have anything. Just make sure I'm buried on Thanagar. Okay, bye. So he flies up into the sky carrying the core. It explodes. Everyone sees the explosion and they're like, okay, that's crazy. And Supergirl gets hit by a car driven by Lobo. And Lobo's like, hey, Bith, things have gone tits up, man. We gotta go. So Bith hops in the car and they just drive away. And Supergirl's like, all right, I guess I'll just let that happen. So they all look at the explosion. Martian Manhunter reconnects with the rest of the group, asks what's happened. It's like, oh, it's Hawkman. And then we see Supergirl holding the charred body of Hawkman, saying that he's dead, which I'm going to go ahead and press X to doubt, because that is not how that works. So yeah, no, it's an alright issue, but it feels weird. I don't know how to, like, the last issue, we were building up since the 0th issue to that explosion with the baby, and then all of a sudden they were just teleported here to Ran, and then like they had a weird thing of, oh, he's just running across Ran with the baby, like waiting for it to power up again, and then there's a thing with the Zeta Beam. I don't know, it seems like a really weird pivot to some new storylines without ever actually wrapping up the old one. Had on top of it the weird Lobo just driving a car saying, hoppin' losers, we're going shopping. I don't know, it felt really weird to me. I felt like I missed an issue in between, but this is what happens. So yeah, no, I can't say I dislike the issue. It's just a strange turn of events, so I guess I'll give it like a 6.5 and just call it a day there. World's Finest number 25, written by Paul Levitz, art by Tyler Kirkham. So last issue, honestly, doesn't really even matter, but just know that they saved a girl named Tanya Spears, and then they are ready to go home. Huntress and Power Girl, they've built a portal, they're ready to go. So we pick up in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Power Girl flies in after a night out on the town. Huntress is like, is this like the flight of shame? Is that what we're doing here? And she's like, I just had a few goodbye parties to hit. And she's like, you're just like a stripper, man. So Power Girl goes off, gets changed, and they talk about like, yeah, all right, well, we've had a lot of time on this planet, and now it's time to finally go home. And Huntress is like, my home died when everybody I cared about died on that planet. Like, even if we go back, I think that, you know, we could still make things do here, but yeah, no, at this point we may as well head back. And we have them showing off their superpowers a little bit. Huntress throws a fork and pins Power Girl's like towel to the wall, and then she manages to rip it out with super strength and heat vision back on. We have Power Girl's assistant, lawyer, I don't know what you want to call him. He comes in and he's like, hey, I ran the documents you wanted. I've updated your will so that everything is left to that Tanya Spears girl as you requested. And she's like, perfect, awesome. So she signs it and then says, hey, by the way, I've got a couple goodbye letters I want you to send as soon as I leave. So she comes out with a huge stack of them. So then we cut over to Desaad, who is worshiping a statue of Darkseid, saying, like, I've been stuck on this planet for 5 years, and I've been making do with what cruelties I could, but dear Lord, I am ready to get back to Apocalypse. So I can feel the barriers weakening, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to go figure out what's going on and get back to you, Darkseid. So we see Karen and Helena walking down the edge of a river. They see like a rowing crew nearby, and they're talking about like, hey, yeah, let's just enjoy our last day here, because we are pretty well aware that like we're going back to a war zone and we might die really quick. Like we might die like a week after we get back. So can we just enjoy this final day here? And Karen's basically just saying like, we're not going to die. I'm invulnerable and I'm not going to let you die. So, and she's like, okay, but like I'm still mortal. And she's like, yeah, but like you're the daughter of Batman and Catwoman. That's counting for something there. So they see this rowing crew go by with a couple of like young boys, maybe men in it. Art's hard to say. And they're just like, yeah, well, you know, that's why I enjoyed this world so much, because not like the war wasn't here. So let's hope that like it never does actually end up arriving here. Let's go back to our planet and stop it before it can spread here. And then, you know, maybe these boys will become men and we can have some fun. And Karen sticks her hand in the water, causes a whirlpool that just like throws them off the boat, and they have a little laugh. We see Desaad makes his way back to Star Labs or Star Industries and has a lock on Tanya, because Tanya was, of course, the girl who stood up to him on the bridge 2 issues ago. And he's like, well, what's so special about her? I'm not sure, but I'm going to find out. So we see the scientists are talking about setting up the portal thing. And Tanya's like, hey, I'm ready to go. Let's do this. Let's get it on. And the German scientist who there is like, hey, show some respect. We got to wait for Karen. She's so smart and brave and cool and beautiful and amazing. And Tanya's like, Jesus, man, you're drooling. What's going on? So we then say that everyone working here is exceptional, including you, Dr. Spears. And Desaad is like, yeah, totally. And so he storms in, pushes the German doctor out of the way, literally slaps him in the face and says, like, you're not important. But you, why were you able to stand up to me? And she's like, oh, you're that creep on the bridge. I'm going to stand up to you the same way again. I'm just going to walk right through you. I'm not afraid of you. And so she goes and charges at Desaad, but this time she just bounces off his chest. And he's like, nah, it's not going to work this time. So she screams. We see Karen and Helena just immediately fly over to the lab because Karen hears the scream. And she's like, oh, yeah, I guess you wouldn't hear that because you don't have super hearing. And then Karen just busts down a wall and immediately goes in to attack Desaad. So it's Karen versus Desaad at this point. Karen says, hey, fire up the portal now. I'm not letting this creep ruin all of our hard work. Like, do it before we have a chance to do anything else. Huntress gets into her gear. She starts fighting against some parademons that just show up. Tanya manages to fire up the portals while Huntress is running some delay tactics in between. And Power Girl just punches Desaad down to the ground and says, hey, I'm sick of you. Get the hell out of my life. And then punches him up into the ceiling. So at that point, she gets rid of the parademons for Huntress, puts on her own outfit and says, all right, we're going home. Hey, Tanya, here, I owe your mom like a few favors for all the things she's done for me. Here's how I'm paying it back. And she tosses over this weird little gadget to Tanya. And she says, oh, thanks. Bye, everyone. And both Huntress and Power Girl go through the portal. We see the object lights up inside of Tanya's hand, and she's like, I don't understand what this is, but it feels weird. And then Desaad like just slinks out from the ceiling and just like, wait, hold on. And he manages to seemingly get through the portal as well. So Power Girl and Huntress, they look back behind them. They see Boston go dark once again, and they pop out the other side on Earth 2, and everything is destroyed and on fire. And they're just like, holy hell, what happened here? So, yeah, they made it back. Took the entire series, took 2 years, but they made it back. Woo. I mean, it's a fine enough issue. Again, I feel like I say the same thing every single time that I talk about this book. I will say that this one is a little bit outside the realm of that, like, lighthearted Silver Age fun and nothing really matters. This one at least feels like we are actually making some plot progression, and we're talking about them making it back to the planet. Clearly we're setting some stuff up with Tanya, however that's going to come out to be. It's it's a perfectly fine issue. And I would say I enjoyed it a bit more than I enjoyed previous issues as well. Art-wise, it also looks great. So overall, I'll give this one like a 7.5. It's enjoyable. It's a fine enough issue, and it feels like we're actually making some forward progress here. Looking very briefly at like what's coming up over the next issue, I'm entertained. I'm seeing that like, okay, we're going to get Earth 2 tie-ins, and it's going to get back to that sort of story. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it at the very least, which is more than I've said for this book for months, if not years at this point. Infinity Man and the Forever People #2, written by Dan DiDio and Keith Giffen, art by Tom Grummett. So last issue, we just got introduced to the team. They came down to Earth, and they're looking to party, I guess. This issue, I'm going to forget most of their names until we get to them. I think one of them is named Dreamer Beautiful, and that's the one we open with she's asleep and Darkseid is just standing over her. And we have Mark Moonbeam, I think? I'll just call him Mark. I know that much for sure. Mark comes in, and he sees Darkseid standing over her, and he's like, Dreamer, hey, honey, I need you to wake up. I need you to wake up right now. And Darkseid turns around to face him, and she's like, what? Huh? Oh, hey, Darkseid is still here. That's weird. Like, why is he? I thought this was my dream. And then all of a sudden, he starts fading away. And Mark is like, hey, it's okay. Stay calm. Clear your mind. Whatever. So he totally disappears as she panics a little bit. And he's like, look, it's fine. It's fine. It was all part of your dream, and it's gone now. And she's like, okay, but like, my dreams can't hurt me when I manifest them like that, but they can definitely hurt you. You could have been like killed. And he's like, oh, well, that's good to know. So she's like, yeah, that's, my dreams always kept me company even when I didn't have any friends. And he's like, oh, well, I'm here now. I'm going to make sure that your dreams don't do anything else. And at that point, Viking and the other girl, I know she has a name. Give me a minute. It is here at the end of the book. Nope, don't care. So Viking and his sister come in, and they're like, hey, what was the noise? What's going on? And then Viking points out like, oh, I see. You and Dreamer got something going on, Mark, huh? And he's like, no, we don't. Nothing to see here. Like, shouldn't you be gone anyway? You didn't even want to be on this team. And he's like, oh, yeah, well, I'm just making sure my sister comes with me. And also, I was woken up, and his name's Moonrider, that's it. I was woken up by my mother box because I was sleeping next to it. And he's like, wow, sleeping with your mother box. That's kinky even for you, Viking. So Dreamer's like, shut up. Look, everybody, you were all in my dream. And we all were like in a dark place. And then you were with me and we were singing a song. But there was a word that we said together. And it was Taaru. Taaru. And Viking's like, all right, well, that's stupid and dumb. So whatever. We have the sister go downstairs, and she comes across Big Bear, and he's getting a readout from his computer called Kirby, and he's like, oh, yeah, that is troubling. We should definitely look into that. And the girl comes up and is just like, hey, is everything cool? And he's like, oh, you shouldn't sneak up on me. But yeah, no, totally, everything's fine. It turns out, though, one of the things that we do in our outreach program is we try to improve the life on Earth. So we went out to the desert and made a farm that is like super highly fertilized. So therefore we can like solve world hunger and whatnot. But something attacked the farm. So we want to know what's going on with that. Who's up for it? And then Mark and Viking, despite the fact they hate each other, look at each other and they're like, road trip. So they take a boom tube. They arrive at the farm, but everything's quiet and everything's too quiet. And Big Bear's like, we should have met up with my contact because, we don't just say that we're new gods to everybody. We have specific people we go through, but yeah, something doesn't feel right. So everyone stay close. And as they make their way through, Viking and Mark start bickering with each other. And then all of a sudden, what's her name hears a sound behind, and then from the cornfields behind them come some weird mantis looking people. They start attacking the group. They're surrounded on all sides, and they finally get to the power set of these people. So Viking is able to control his density. Moonrider is able to have these huge energy blasts that he uses, but they come at some sort of cost, like they tire him out. He fires off some stuff. God, no reason I couldn't remember her name. Serafina Baldor is just Dazzler. She uses lights to blind her opponents and confuse them. And obviously it's not enough to stop this horde of bugs coming after them. So Big Bear steps in and he's like, all right, time for me to do my thing. He pulls out like Wolverine claws and he just starts slashing at all the bugs. But it says his origins are kept a secret from almost everybody. And it turns out that he is actually from Apocalypse. And he can smell Apocalypse on all these bugs. And he's like, I smell my birth planet. And for some reason he's on New Genesis, but nobody's like knows why. He can smell the flesh of dead people around, so he knows that people were killed here. And he starts slowly transforming into like a more demonic looking form. So he gets piled on by the bugs. He ends up blasting them, all of them off of him. And then as he has killed pretty much all of them, Serafina steps up and is like, Mr. Big Bear, are you okay? And he's like, yeah, no, I'm cool. I'm great. Anyway, let's go. And he just transforms back. He's fine. So they look up. They see a bunch more of these bugs just flying in. And mind you, these are all like person size. They aren't like the size of bugs. But they all fly in. And they're led by this one main guy who's like, oh, they have hurt our family. Now we will devour theirs. So they see that they're clearly outnumbered. There's no way they could take on all these people. All of a sudden, Viking's mother box starts lighting up. It's glowing. It's freaking out, transforming. And Dreamer's also interested in it. And Serafina comes over as well. Mark and Big Bear are like, what are you guys? We are about to be attacked. What is going on? But then Mark starts hearing the sound as well coming from the mother box, and it's saying, oh, we all have to stand together. We all have to make contact. We all have to say the word, say it all as one. So everyone touches the box and they all say Taru. And then there's a giant explosion that knocks away pretty much all the bugs. So the only one that's left standing at this point is the main one. And he's like, oh, my swarm destroyed. Who did this? Who could have possibly been behind such massive amount of power? Show yourself. And coming down comes this beast that says like, oh, be not afraid, for it is I. I am Infinity Man. Let me help you. So they make Infinity Man. Who would have thought the Forever people would Megazord together and make Infinity Man? Me, because I feel like I know this already. It's okay. It's perfect. It's exactly what I expect from a Keith Giffen Dan DiDio book, which is to say it's the same that OMAC was. It's fine. It's just them really, really, really enjoying Jack Kirby and wanting to do a book based off of his characters. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But like, I'm not endeared to the characters yet. Not nearly as much as they are, clearly. The fact that they definitely did not give me a name character box on Serafina until like page 12 of this book, whereas everyone else gets one much earlier on. That's a problem, especially with a name like Serafina Baldor. Christ. So yeah, it's not an awful issue, but it's not great either. I think I'm going to give this one just a flat 6. At the very least, Infinity Man is a cool design, and he does have this godlike presence to him, so I'm interested to see what his power set is. Clearly he's powerful, but it's going to come down to like, you know, what can you throw in his way that's actually going to be a problem? So we'll get to that. All in all, like I said, 6.5 for this. It's not fantastic. It's just fair. Constantine number 16, written by Ray Fawkes, art by Edgar Salazar. So last issue was the whole thing with like a fortune thing, blah, blah, blah. Honestly, it doesn't really play much into this issue, except to know that Constantine is currently on a quest where he's talking to a bunch of different people to do stuff. So we pick up in Germany, the town of, good lord, Donaueschingen. Apologies. And we meet up with this man here who, I don't know, I think it's Carl. He's basically saying, yeah, out in the forest, there's a whole bunch of like body parts, pieces of people that are like tied up in the trees. Police say it's a wildcat, but it's actually a telluric enchantment to keep like magic stuff out or in. And if you want to get through as a magic user, you got to come through Carl. Carl's got the charms for you. Buy now. And turns out Constantine did go through Carl, and he got himself a bunch of charms in order to get through these woods. And we see that this is actually the woods that, like, a bunch of the stories of Grimm's fairy tales and stuff came from, because obviously that stuff would be real. This is all, like, the actual woods of Hansel and Gretel and Red Riding Hood and whatnot. So John's making his way through, trying to find someone. But the main thing that he's talking about is the spell that Zatanna put on him, which hasn't been mentioned in a while, but Zatanna put the spell on him to basically say he needs to be better. So now he's constantly trying to be a good person, not because he actually wants to, but because that's what the spell is doing on him, and he's kind of wants it to go away. So as he's standing in the woods, all of a sudden 2 demi-wolves come out, which are like werewolves, but they're wolves like half wolf all the time, instead of full wolf some of the time. And they also have a giant Cthulhu-looking monster just like hovering over them. And they say, oh, I've got the scent, I've got the scent. And Constantine uses one of the charms to, like, blow away his scent and mask it, because he figures that these guys are coming for him. They also are called the Stained Claw. And they say, oh, there, that way, that's where the scent is. And they're like, oh. Constantine's like, oh, they weren't for me. They weren't looking for me. So that means that they're looking for the guy that I'm looking for in here. And that's going to be an even bigger problem. Also, apparently the Cthulhu monster is called a phasing witness, which, I'll be honest, we can just ignore. Hopefully it won't mean anything, but it's just there and it causes some weird problems sometimes. So Constantine's like, oh, if it's going after that guy, then I can get the drop on him. I could stop them. And he's like, wait a minute, hold on. That sounds awfully heroic. Is that me wanting that, or is that the spell? Because I could just go to a hotel as well. I don't have to partake in this. Yeah, no, that's definitely what I should be doing. But of course, he can't help it, and he decides, yeah, no, I got to jump in. So they see all, like, the body parts dangling from the trees and whatnot. They know they're close when they start moving through the woods. And then the trees start attacking the demi-wolves. And it turns out it's Constantine. He's using some druid magic to control the trees and starts entrapping the demi-wolves. So as he makes his way in, he sees all of the body parts, and it is part of, like, an enchantment, a spell or something to disorient him, to confuse him. But then he remembers something that Carl said earlier on about not seeing the forest through the trees, and he's like, oh yeah, right, okay, see the forest through the trees. And he walks over to a tree and he, like, taps it a few times, and then all of a sudden a door opens up, and sitting inside is just like this, just, I don't want to say little old man, but just like a dude who looks like he does a lot of wood shop, and he's like, ah, well, you found me, come inside. So I'm not going to do that German accent ever again, but he comes in and he's just like, oh, I dreamt you would come and you would bring assassins with you. And Constantine's like, whoa, hold on, no, but, like, it's just me, but there are assassins coming and we might want to hide. And then all of a sudden the demi-wolves bust in through some windows, and they're like, ah, yes, you are Alrecht Zimmerman. You are the Xylomancer, and you will be coming with us. We know exactly what you are. Did you think that your secrets would be hidden from us? And we see the Cthulhu-looking thing outside cast some weird spell that, like, sets the house on fire. I have no idea what that thing's there for. So the demi-wolves go and they attack Ulrich, when all of a sudden one of them falls down dead, and he's got silver through, like, lodged in the back of his head, and he's like, what? Silver? Who else is here with you? What's going on? And the demi-wolf manages to sniff out, with the help of the Cthulhu thing, Constantine, who is hiding in the shadows. And he holds up Constantine and says, like, oh, I'm going to tear your throat out. And Constantine's like, you idiot. We're both working for the cult of the cold flame. I'm your backup. That's the whole reason I'm here. People up top didn't think you could handle it, and clearly not. One of your guys just died. So get your hands off me and go get him before he kills you too. And he's just like, that doesn't make any sense. Why would it be secret? And he's just like, do it. And he's like, all right, fine, whatever, cool. So he goes over. He's ready to go attack Ulrich again. Constantine holds out a little silver charm to make sure that the werewolf can't come after him again, and that he can attack the werewolf in the right moment. And as the demi-wolf is going to attack Ulrich, he wrestles again. He's like, I should stop him, but, like, that seems like the heroic thing. Is that a thing I actually want to be doing or not? I don't know. Is that me? But in the moment where the guy swipes his claws, Ulrich just raises up his hand and stops it. And he says, you have no idea what I am. And he transforms into a full-fledged werewolf. Not a demi-wolf, a werewolf. To which Constantine had no clue about this. And he's taken off guard as the werewolf tears apart the demi-wolf, and he ends up dropping his silver. He goes scrambling for it, picks it up in the nick of time, just as the werewolf is about to attack him. And he's like, yeah, okay, this is a bit much. And the werewolf just stares at the silver charm and bats Constantine away. He goes into a wall and blacks out. So some time passes, and Constantine wakes up, and Ulrich has left him alone. He's even put him in bed, and he's just smoking a little pipe. He's just like, hey, yeah, I caught the Cthulhu thing, and I think I'm going to have it stuffed, but I don't know, like, which parts of it I should have removed or not to have it stuffed. Anyway, sit still while I examine your soul. And he puts his hand to Constantine's head and starts examining his memories and gets the whole thing of, Cult of the Cold Flame, all that other stuff, but Zatanna putting the spell on him. And he's like, oh, okay, yeah. So Cult of the Cold Flame and a motivational spell. And Constantine's like, yeah, right, I know. I was hoping that you could free me from the motivational spell part. He's just like, all right, calm down. Let me take a better look. So he puts a blindfold on Constantine and then puts him back to sleep. So sometime later, Constantine wakes up and he's like, all right, look, I've got your bones set. I've read your soul. I did everything I needed to do. In that cup next to you is a tea. If you drink it, it will allow you to break through the spell that Zatanna put on you, and you will be back to being yourself. But I want to advise you two things. One, are you sure you want to do that? Because you were kind of a dick before. And Constantine just starts chugging it down. And he's like, whoa, okay, let me say the second thing then. It's not going to be like you're the exact same as you were before. All of us are just the sum of our parts. Like, you're still going to have your previous experiences driving you and informing your current ones. It's just not going to make it a forced thing anymore. Okay? That's all I want to say. And he's just like, yep, all right, can do. So he slams down the mug. And he's like, all right, do whatever final stuff you need to do. So Ulrich starts putting his hands on Constantine's head. Meanwhile, back at the Temple of the Cold Flame, one of the, servants or whatever delivers the news that the demi-wolves died, and Constantine is there with Ulrich. And immediately Tanrak's like, okay, if he's with Ulrich, that means that he's able to undo the Zatanna spell, which I knew was inside of him the whole time. Can't let that happen, because that was actually part of my whole plan. The fact that he would be playing the hero would be playing directly into our hands. If he's able to be a conniving con man like he was before, dear God, he is unstoppable. We got to hit his kill switch now. And Sargon's like, right? Okay, now? Cool, let's do it. So Tanrak starts throwing around the hand symbols, and he's like, yep, nope, this is it. He is truly out of our control. We got to get rid of him. And back over with Ulrich, you see him doing the thing with the spell, and he's like, whoa, hold on, something else oh God, what's going on? And then Constantine's head explodes in a blue light. His face is removed from his skull, and that is it for Constantine. Obviously not actually, because, there's more to this trade even, but yeah, big consequences. So, this one feels a lot less set up. Every other issue has been doing a lot to just lead into the next issue of saying, here's what we're doing next. But this one feels a lot more just, oh, and then we're going to Germany and we're meeting with a werewolf who also is like the most powerful sorcerer, maybe to some extent. It's not a bad issue. It just doesn't feel like it was very set up. So I'm going to say this one is I'll give it a flat 7. I enjoyed it, but yeah, it's kind of just its own standalone thing. It honestly feels like the last 3-4 issues of this book could have just been skipped, and then you could have just gone straight to this one, as long as you got the fact that Zatanna put a spell on him at some point. So yeah, it's a fine issue. I don't know what more you want me to say. 7. Batman Eternal number 14, written by Snyder, Tynion, Fox, Layman, and Seeley, art by Mikel, Janin. So this issue picks up in Arkham Asylum with Scarecrow just running down the halls, freaking out. And he's like, all right, these are maybe the last words I ever speak. Arkham Asylum is gone. Something crazy's coming up from below the floors. There's no hope left here. I have no idea what's going on. I've never been more afraid in my life. And as he cowers against the wall, some hands just reach out, say good, and then drag him in through the wall. Then we see him screaming, and we cut back out to the outskirts of Gotham. So we go to a motel where Penguin's hiding out, and he's like, let me make something very clear to you lackeys that I've hired here. I am worth $18.6 million, even with my casino at the bottom of the bay. Like, that's just through legal stuff. So the fact that I am at a motel is so beneath me, you cannot even begin to understand my rage. And the one lackey's just like, sir, if you go into a bank in Gotham, like, you'll be dead before you hit the teller. That's what Falcone's got right now. And Penguin says, like, oh, the natural order. That's what he always said. Hey, lackey, let me tell you the story of Rex Calabrese, or Calabrese, who is also known as the Lion. He was the guy in charge of Gotham before Falcone, and he's the one who managed to get all the cops to be dirty and everyone else to like come in and all the crime families united, and it was strictly because he was so goddamn terrifying. He would rip out your heart with his teeth. But he always said there was a natural order, and one day the Lion, him, was going to grow weak and someone else would supplant him, and that's just how it is. Time takes its toll. Falcone is the one who managed to take over like the drug market, different arms contracts. He took out Rex and Calabrese, and that's where he came in. But then I ran him out of the city, and Falcone's time may be over, but that means it's still time of the Penguin. We don't move backwards up the natural order. Still Penguin time, not Falcone time. And he takes this guy and just like crushes his trachea in his hands. So as this dude's bleeding out on the ground, another dude comes in saying like, Mr. Cobblepot, we just got a call saying the exact location of Falcone. What do you want to do about that? So then we go to the mayor's office where Lieutenant Bard is playing the message that they picked up after the raid the previous night and playing it for the mayor. And he's just like, now, Mayor, I may not have evidence to pin this to you, but I know you're the one who put Forbes in as the acting commissioner, so clearly you are in bed with Falcone. So just tell me where he is. And he's like, I got no idea what you're talking about. And Bart just like attacks him, just like straight up like threatens him, saying like, I may not have the evidence, but I do have the court of public opinion, and I will ruin your career if you do not tell me where he is now. And immediately Hades like, he may be staying at this like flower shop. Just like, all right, cool, thank you. Also, I'm still going to be investigating you for crimes, and so you better be ready for that. And Hades on the way out's just like, you remind me of Gordon. And he says, thank you, sir. So speaking of Gordon, in Blackgate, we see that Gordon is thinking about the fact that his sons came in and said, hey, I'm giving you a way out. You can just leave Blackgate. Like, I just want you to tell me that you were never actually standing for anything. You were always just the same sort of pathetic man that everyone else is. And as he's sitting reflecting on this, we have his bunkmate Leo sits down at the table with him, and he's like, hey, saw your court thing on the news. Seems like you should be getting pretty comfortable here. And he's like, yeah, I guess I'll just grab my slippers. And Leo basically says, like, you want to tell me what that kid with the eye patch thing was last night? Because you look scared to death ever since he came in. And he's just like, yeah, don't worry about it. But Gordon basically comes to the thing of like, look, I don't know what to believe anymore. I'm having like a little crisis of conscience here, and I really want to consider what I want to do with my life, even if all of the options are terrible. So we go to Falcone's hideout, and Falcone's on the phone basically saying like, I will pay off any of Penguin's high-ranking lieutenants tonight, $1 million for everyone who comes to me. I'm ending this war now. I won. The game is up. And there's a knock at the door, and he walks outside, and as he steps out, all of his men are bleeding out and dead. So he grabs a gun, and he's like, Cobblepot, I know this is you, but like, you had to hire a bunch of men to come and kill my best guys here. You've always been one who's been afraid to get your hands dirty. You were never one that was strong enough, like I am, to fight against you. And so don't be a coward. Come and face me with yourself. And as he steps out into the next room, Cobblepot's just standing there, foaming at the mouth with a bloody umbrella. And he's like, Falcone, you idiot. I left all my boys at home. I'm the one who killed all of your men. It was me, Falcone. And Falcone just like freaks out for a second, giving Penguin enough time to launch a dagger from his umbrella into Falcone's wrist. He drops his gun. And Penguin just like steps up and rips out the dagger from his hand, just being like, here's the thing you don't get. All right? Here's the thing. You made me what I am now. You never understood how to deal with like the freaks of Gotham. You didn't understand like what the Joker was and how to deal with him. You thought Batman was just another do-gooder. I was the one who was able to adapt to that and became what this city really needed. And my only mistake was letting you live all that time ago. So I'm gonna fix that right now. And he puts the dagger to Falcone's neck, and then there's a flash of light. And it turns out that Bard and the press are all here watching this happen, and they're like, yep, well, that's a headline. Let's go ahead with that. So Bard turns to Penguin saying, you're under arrest for attempted murder, and Falcone, you're under arrest for whatever the hell I'm going to find in this building, which I bet is a lot. So at that point, he says, Falcone says like, hey, Forbes isn't going to let you arrest me. And he's like, oh yeah, he was arrested earlier today. He's on his own corruption charges, so you'll have plenty of time to talk to him in Blackgate. So Bard says, take him away, boys, and we go back over to Gordon in the jail, which, of course, his son said that at 2:46 a.m., the doors would be unlocked, and he'd be able to walk right out. And we see the doors unlock, and Gordon starts walking his way down the halls, and he makes his way out to the exit, and then he turns around and says, I just came to make sure it was locked. And standing behind him is Batman, and he's just like, you sure, man? You sure that's the only reason you're here? And Gordon's like, look, my son put a lot of thoughts in my head about why did I shoot? Like, did I mean it? Was I frustrated? The answer is, yeah, I'm frustrated. But ultimately, I haven't given up on this city. There's still good in it. There's the good that made you. There's the good that, like, is able to get that to happen. But I'm an old man now. I'm not able to run across rooftops and keep up with like people like you anymore. Natural order, things change. You ever hear of Rex Calabrese? Like, things are going to eventually change, and I think that this is where I end my career. This is where it is. And Batman's like, you're wrong. I can prove that you were framed. I just need more time. And he's just like, hey, like, I'm hearing stuff that Penguin and Falcone and them got arrested. Was it Bard? Was he the one who did it? And Batman's like, yeah, it was him. He's like, sounds to me like I already found my replacement. And I think you might want to get in on that too, because he's going to be the one who's going to be surviving a lot longer than I am. So then we get a quick scene with Red Robin flying over the ocean. He sees all the headlines. He's like, Jesus, I left Gotham at the wrong time. Hey, turn back to Gotham and run a diagnostics on the ship real quick. And the ship's like, there are 2 passengers. And he's like, no, there aren't. There's me. Who else is here? And they show a camera feed of Harper Rose sitting in the storage unit eating cheese puffs. And he's like, son of a... Get off... So we then go to the GCPD roof where Bard is sitting there talking to his mom on the phone. Batman shows up and he's like, hey, Mom, I gotta go. And he's like, hey, what you did here, you managed to take it out the gang war. You did it. You seem like you could be a perfect ally for me. And he's just like, that's all I ever wanted, Batman. He holds out his hand for a handshake, and Batman just doesn't shake it. And he's like, something wrong? And he says, someone tipped off the Penguin to Falcone's exact location. Because of that, Penguin killed people. 12 people are dead because of that call. And Bard's like, we don't know who sent it to him. We're not able to trace it. And he's like, I am. I've got a back computer. Came from your cell phone, Bard. You tipped him off, and people died because of that. And Bard goes on this little monologue here where he's like, look, the city's changing. I'm keeping up with it. You and Gordon, you were always unwilling to cross certain lines, but like, I'm going to keep this city safe. I'm going to make sure that it does not fall to people like Falcone or Penguin ever again. And if that means I have to cross one of your guys' imaginary lines to do so, I will sleep perfectly fine doing that. So yeah, we're going to have to fight for Gotham. Are you okay with that? And he turns back around and Batman's gone. And then the last little bit we get is Scarecrow, after being abducted at the beginning, he wakes up and we see that someone's saying like, oh yes, Batboy and his ghostly friend are about to pay us a visit, and we want to put on a good show without any distractions. So right now I'm going to have to take care of you. After all, that's what my daddy told me. Turns out it's Joker's daughter who's got a hatchet to Scarecrow's face. So that's that. Besides the Scarecrow stuff, which it just feels like is reminding us, hey, remember spooky stuff at Arkham Asylum. I like the idea that, Bard isn't as squeaky clean. He crosses a line that Batman wouldn't have crossed. And Gordon's got his own stuff going on of thinking that he's, past his prime. And I don't know. It's if this book has any staying power, it feels like it could genuinely change the landscape of Gotham. It feels like we could evolve from what this initially was of New 52 setup to an actual new landscape of different gangs, different players in charge of things, the police layout being different. So yeah, no, it's got a good groove going on there. I'm going to say this issue is a solid 7.5 for me. Definitely enjoyed it. Mikel Janin's art's fantastic. So yeah, great issue. Future's End number 10, written by Azzarello, Lemire, Jurgens, and Giffen, art by Aaron Lopresti. So this issue picks up with Superman busting through buildings. If you remember last issue, there was a jailbreak where Superman let the people disappear because he was saving a civilian. And as he's busting his way through walls, he gets zapped by a bunch of weapons. He's looking for this guy named Boyer, who makes a whole bunch of technology toys. And he's just yelling out like, "Give it up, Boyer, I know you're here." And he tears apart all these toys and all this radioactive stuff. And he's like, "I swear to God, if I had to keep going through this building, I'm going to rip your head right off your shoulders when I find you. Better surrender now. Up, too late. Going to do it anyway." And as he finally finishes going through the building, he just realizes that Boyer isn't here. And someone calls out from the side like, "Superman, what the hell are you doing here?" Turns out it's Lois Lane. And Superman's like, "Oh, Lois, Boyer, he disappeared days ago." I was like, "Yeah, well, this place was one of his hideouts, but like he doesn't live here anymore. He's disappeared for years. The only reason we haven't torn this place down is because it's super radioactive and toxic. You're the one who told me that." And he's like, "Right. That's why I thought he'd be here. Like hiding in plain sight. Anyway, gotta go. Bye." And he just flies off. And Lois is like, "All right, I don't even know what that was." So we go to the Wounded Duck Bar where we get our group key, Plastique, and the last one talking about breaking into Terrifitech. And as they're sitting there talking, Plastique is like, "Is my skull made of metal?" And everyone's like, "Shut up, Plastique." And then Terry shows up, Terry McGinnis, and he's like, "Hey, I know you guys are breaking into Terrifitech, and I would like to be part of your crew." And they're just like, "That's not what we're doing," and go away. And he's just like, "Really? Well, how about this?" And he passes over his little beanie that he used when he was disguised as the homeless guy. And Plastique is immediately like, "Oh, you're the bad guy." And he's just like, "Yeah, okay, I'm the bad guy. Let's calm it down. Let's shut up a little bit." So he sits down at the thing and he's like, "Look, I've been inside T-Tech. I can give you guys some extra stuff." And he pulls out one of his gloves. And it causes a hologram to appear on the table that shows, like, the floor plan of the building. He's like, "Look, here's the first floor, here's the second floor. Like, we can get all this stuff figured out here." We see Tim Drake from the bar is watching. He's like, "What in the hell's going on over there?" Plastique, meanwhile, is like, "What was in that grocery cart? It looked a lot like me." And he's like, "Shut up, Plastique. No one cares about your own stuff." So Coil is interested. He's like, "All right, this guy's got some info." Meanwhile, Key is like, "This is dumb. This guy is just playing us along. It's a why would he be giving us this if he has all this info? It's a setup." And Terry's fully willing to like give more information. He's like, "Look, here's the 22nd floor, the 23rd floor." And Key grows and like grabs his hand, saying like, "How about I break your hand?" And then Terry just like pokes him in the throat with like a little jolt, and it's enough to knock Key out. And he's like, "Oh, he spilled his drink. I'll go get a rag." So he goes up to the bar, and Tim Drake's like, "I just saw what you did there. That was a variation on the Tonga Death Strike." And Terry's like, "What do you know about the Tonga Death Strike?" And he's like, "I know the guy who taught me the non-lethal version of it, the same one you just did." And they like share a look, and Tim's just like, "Does he mention me?" And Terry just like throws back the rag. He's like, "I wouldn't know." And he walks over to the table. He's like, "Can that guy walk? Cool. We got to get the hell out of this bar because I'm getting a feeling that we're being watched a little bit." So sometime later above the bar, Madison is going through Tim Drake's stuff. Of course, she thinks his name is Cal. And she's like, "Hey, look, Lois says that I'm Tim Drake. She's crazy. We all know Tim Drake died, as the Teen Titans did during that, what was it called? Parademons? I don't even remember. Point being, she's crazy. I'm not her. But I saw how upset she made you, so I got you this." And he pulls out a little box of jewelry, and apparently she hasn't had any jewelry because her dad got all of it through ill-gotten gains. So they share a kiss, and he's like, "Hey, I got to get down to the bar, but like I hope we're good." And she's like, "Oh yeah, totally. I'm just going to put on this necklace. Super great." So we then cut out to the Stormwatch base where Hawkman's arm that got cut off and put on Frankenstein's body is now almost completely regrown thanks to the nth metal. And Amethyst is like, that's crazy. That's Oswald. What do you think it's going to do on Frankenstein's body? And Hawkman's like, I don't really care what happens to Frankenstein. I'm more concerned about hunting down the Stormwatch people, like whoever did this to Stormwatch. And Amethyst is like, look, I understand survivor's guilt. Like, after Gemerald died, I didn't know how to deal with myself either. And Hawkman's like, I don't blame myself. I want to go get revenge. Jesus. Well, you think I'm that freaking pathetic? No, I'm a warrior. You may be that pathetic. And Amethyst is like, oh, okay, no, here's what I get. I get that the whole reason that you were kicked off the Justice League and had to go to Stormwatch instead is because you're a pig-headed jerk and nobody wanted to be around you. So if you ever talk to me like that again, I will cut off more than your arm, okay? And Hawkman's like, I love you. So at that point, he gets a signal on his Stormwatch communicator, and she's like, well, but like all of Stormwatch is dead. Like, who could be communicating? And he's like, no, don't you get it? That means I'm not alone. Somebody else from Stormwatch did survive. So then we go over to Cadmus Island, where Grifter's just taking stock of everything going on. He's got to work with Deathstroke and 50 Sue and all that other stuff. And then as he's walking around his home, all of a sudden he feels like he's not alone, but he doesn't see anybody. And then all of a sudden he gets punched by an invisible thing. And as he scrambles back up, he's like, okay, wait a minute, it's not invisible, it's just cloaked. I can kind of see the outline. And so he starts trying to dodge it as best he can. He's yelling out like, I'm not looking for trouble. I don't know what's going on. Please stop hitting me. And he gets bashed through a few more walls. He tries throwing a punch. It does nothing. The thing keeps on attacking him over and over again. And as he's spitting up blood down on the floor, all of a sudden 50 Sue shows up and the beast is just gone. And she's like, hey, that was an OMAC. It was invisible. I don't know why and I don't know why I was attacking you because they're on our side. So congratulations, Grifter. You're now officially interesting to me because for some reason someone wants you dead enough to use OMACs. Anyway, bye. And Grifter's just bleeding out on the ground like, ah! So then we go to Vancouver, where there is a homeless shelter, and there's a very tall woman who is helping give out food at the shelter. And she's very kind, and someone takes notice of her, this other woman nearby, and she's like, oh yeah, I'm not hungry right now. But as the tall woman is leaving the shelter, she realizes she's being followed by this other woman. She ducks down an alley and manages to get the drop on her stalker, and she's like, I swear to God, I will beat you up. And they start fighting with each other, but the other woman is able to hold her ground pretty well. She introduces herself as Emiko, and she says, hey, look, I'm not with the Global Peace Agency. I'm not here like against you or anything. I know who you are, and I need your help because I know that you're not Jane Kirby, as you claim to be. You're actually Big Barda. And we see inside of Jane's thing is Big Barda gear. So, yeah, Big Barda, of course, comes from possibly Earth 2. The fourth world, but like she was in Earth 2, so obviously she would be a fugitive at this point, and now we've got GPA, I guess, Global Peace Agency is the one who are hunting down on behalf of Cadmus to capture them. And then Emiko's there, so that's the thing as well. It's a fine issue. It moves each plot just a little bit further ahead. You got Superman stuff, which apparently is now its own plot of Superman having something going on because Lois made the point of saying, you told me this information and now you don't remember it. So something's going on with Superman. Terry and Tim now know about each other to some extent, so that's interesting. Everything else just feels like it's moving on pretty nicely, so I'm at least a little bit intrigued with all that. I'd say this one is probably just a flat 7 for me. Nothing too stand out. Still a perfectly fine issue, and I'm still keeping interest in the story overall. And that's it. That is all the comics put out by DC Comics this July 9th, 2014. And one little quick correction. I just realized here at the end, Batman Eternal, I believe I said that the artist was Mikel Janin. It is actually Jason Fabok. Does not change that the art was very, very good. So yeah, that's that. Anyway, next week is episode 150. I know, incredible. I can't believe that numbers work in this way. But we actually do not have a lot going on. We only got 9 comics coming out next week, which is basically DC begging me to do something special with the extra time, but I have nothing planned. So if you have any ideas as to what I could do special, please let me know. I genuinely have no idea. Anyway, I will go ahead and list off the 9 comics that we've got coming out next week, because it is a weird little batch. So in terms of normal comics, we have Batwoman, Red Hood, Supergirl, Green Lantern New Guardians, our 2 weeklies of Batman Eternal and Future's End, and that's basically it. In terms of weird stuff, we've got a brand new number 1, which is Teen Titans, coming back because Lobdell messed it up that badly. We have a one-shot of Harley Quinn Invades Comic-Con International, which, I'll be honest, I don't actually know if I own a copy of anywhere in my multiple trades, so that might be on the chopping block. We'll see. And then a one-shot for Batman and Robin's next arc, which is Robin Rises Omega, which I think is just Zombie Robin. So yeah, all that's coming out next week. It's a whole bunch of big stuff. Be sure to tune in for that. And if I maybe do something else, ? I don't know. Anyway, like I said, I wanted to try to keep this episode brief. I've already talked a bit too long here at the end, so I'm just going to speed through this ending stuff. If you have any comments, be sure to leave them down in the comment section below, or visit one of our various social media places. We have a subreddit, we have a Patreon, we have a Discord. I prefer the last 2, but you know, you do you, depending on your monetary value. Beyond that, if you have enjoyed this episode, be sure to like, subscribe, do the other things that make me hate myself, and be sure to tune in to next week's episode. Thank you very much for watching, listening, however it is you consume this podcast. I will see you next week, and always try to remember, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.